Breaking news flashes across the screen, and the reflection in someone's eyes shows utter shock at what's unfolding. Sitting in his living room, our protagonist watches the news announce the passing of S-rank mage Lee Seojin during a mission. The reporter continues the story, explaining the mage was confronting the malevolent dragon Kruas in downtown Seoul. The broadcast then displays images of the hero, stating he debuted as a mage at 25 in the year 2034. Because of his deeds, he resolved countless incidents and earned the public's adoration. Thus, memorial altars would be erected nationwide. Everyone who heard of his passing was in a state of profound shock. With that, our young man switches off the television. Completely stunned, our character clutches the remote, murmuring to himself that this can't be real. Still reeling, he throws himself back on the sofa, wondering how the main character could fall at this juncture of the story. He tries to convince himself it's all just an elaborate prank, but his expression tells a different story. The young man then considers that the Lee Seojin just reported is gone as someone of great importance. We then get a glimpse of Lee Seojin, his brilliant and powerful sword at the ready for a major battle. He was a 25-year-old mage of genius talent, capable of facing and defeating dozens of foes simultaneously. Beyond all that, he was the young hero everyone in this era watched with immense admiration. But the crucial detail was that his former classmate was the protagonist of the novel titled Modern Mage. At that moment, a flashback takes us to their school days, when Kim Seon-woo first realized his classmate was the protagonist. Had everything followed the original script, the story was supposed to conclude with a happy ending, allowing the young man to return home. However, something went terribly awry, and that evil dragon emerged to derail the entire plot. Breaking out in a cold sweat, the young man questions why the main character is being defeated here and now, without any reason. He then shoots up from the sofa in despair, realizing he now has no idea what his future holds. And finally, he recalls a chat with his friends about how an extra should seize any opportunity that arises. The memory flashes on, with our protagonist insisting there's no way he'd do that, asking if his friend has lost his mind. Kim Seon-woo then explains that if he interfered and the main character was defeated, everything would be ruined. He adds that he lacks the confidence to work as hard as the story's hero. In response, his friend calls him pathetic, remarking that he says all the right things in the most irritating way. Without warning, our protagonist's cell phone begins to vibrate in his pocket, startling him. He pulls out the device to see he's won some kind of event, piquing his friend's curiosity. Reading the message, he sees it's from the author of Modern Mage, congratulating him on winning. The message goes on to offer a ticket to a very special place, with the option to accept or decline. Seeing this, his friends erupt in excitement over Kim Seon, who is incredible luck. Without a second thought, he taps the accept button as his friends wonder about his destination. The young man celebrates, overjoyed with the trip he just won, completely unaware of what it entailed. And so, 7 years ago, he was engulfed by an intensely bright light that forever changed his life. In that instant, he fell directly into the novel he so loved to read, Modern Mage, to everyone's astonishment. Back in the present, Kim Seon, who can't fathom how the story became so tangled. Since the original plot could not be altered, he always resigned himself to being a mere background character. He wonders where it all went wrong, just as the television in front of him begins to flicker. Utterly confused, the young man wonders what on earth is happening to the TV now. Baffled, he approaches the screen, trying to diagnose the problem with the appliance. Abruptly, a strange force starts yanking him into the television, sending him into a panic. He is then pulled into an urban cityscape, despairing at the unfamiliar sight. Our protagonist is yanked into the screen with a look of pure desperation, understanding nothing. His eyes fly open in sheer shock and confusion at the bizarre situation unfolding. Suddenly, he witnesses a person on the street simply dissolve into purple particles while on their phone. And to his horror, every other person around him also begins to disintegrate into thin air. Two women chatting casually also turn to dust right before a young man's eyes. Overcome with terror, Kim Seon-woo screams, "Demand to know what in the world is happening." In that moment, a red system screen materializes before him, catching him completely off guard. The message declares that Lee Seojin has perished, and as a result, all main scenarios are deemed a failure. A new alert follows, informing him that since the scenario cannot proceed, the world will be reset. The young man is stunned by the system's warning as the world around him starts to shatter like glass. Everything begins to fracture, and he realizes space-time itself is splintering into pieces. And then, it all shatters into countless glass, like fragments as the young man plummets into darkness. He jolts awake, startled by someone calling him student, and telling him to wake up as they've arrived at school. Glancing to his side, he sees the bus driver telling him they reached the school some time ago. Utterly bewildered, Kim Seon-woo apologizes and stands wondering why he was called a student. He then recalls being in his room, questioning why on earth he woke up on a bus. Stepping off the vehicle, the young man wonders if the world-ending event he witnessed was merely a dream. As he exits, the bright sunlight blinds him, and he raises a hand to shield his eyes. Still slightly dazed, he scans his surroundings to finally figure out where he has landed this time. He then comes face to face with the imposing structure of the Mages Academy right before him. Noticing a banner congratulating the class of 2032, he remembers graduating from this very academy. But something feels off. He realizes the year is 2032, a full 7 years in the past. Shocked, he starts connecting the dots and panics at the possibility forming in his mind. The young man looks down at his own hands, noticing his body is visibly younger. He despairs, thinking this can't be real, and asks himself if he truly traveled back 7 years. Just then, a loudspeaker begins to welcome all new students to the Magic Academy. The announcement adds that the opening ceremony will begin shortly, requesting students to take their seats. With a sigh of resignation, the protagonist simply accepts the situation, thinking he's going to lose his mind. Seeing that everything is identical to how he remembers, he understands there's no choice but to accept what has happened. Kim Seon-woo comes to terms with the reality that he has journeyed into his own past. But one question still plagues him: why was Lee Seo-jin defeated in the other timeline? According to the original story, there was absolutely no reason for the hero to meet such a tragic end. The attack from the Dragon Cruise was part of the plot, but the hero was supposed to emerge victorious. With this in mind, he concludes there must be another variable behind the main character's downfall. Agitated, he rises to his feet mid-ceremony, unable to make sense of the situation. He then glances around, seeing the other students seated on the benches of the Academy's Grand Hall. A new worry surfaces: what would happen if Lee Seo-jin were to be defeated again in this life? He questions whether he'd be sent to the past once more, or if the world would simply cease to exist. Neither outcome was desirable, but one thing was certain: he could not allow Lee Seo-jin to fall again. With a look of resolve, our protagonist decides that this time, he will intervene to change the future. He clenches his fist tightly, determined to return his original world whatever it takes. To do so, he must prevent Lee Seo-jin's defeat and ensure the novel reaches its happy conclusion. To achieve that, the first step for our protagonist is to take out his phone and make a move. With a clear plan, the young man approaches one of the story's main characters. A friendly smile on his face, he waves to the girl and offers a warm greeting. He figures the best course of action now is to start by getting close to the key characters. The young man approaches the girl once more, employing the same tactic as before. He moves closer, attempting to strike up a conversation with the girl engrossed in her phone. With a confident smile, he waves to the young woman, greeting her with a simple "I." The girl is Yuera, the second-year's second strongest student and someone he needs to befriend. She eyes him suspiciously, asking if by some chance they've met before. The young woman presses on, questioning when they could have possibly met for him to act so familiar. The young man just offers an awkward smile, unsure of how to respond. She asks if he has something to say, but the protagonist just shakes his head, embarrassed by the exchange. The girl then tells him to look elsewhere, stating that he's making her uncomfortable. With a forced smile, he realizes this mission won't be easy in the slightest. Abruptly, an announcement summons the representatives from each grade to the stage. Heeding the call, a few students begin making their way toward the ceremony stage. 3 students then ascend the stage, taking their positions to represent their respective grades. One of them, in particular, commands everyone's attention with his commanding presence and extraordinary talent. Kim Seon-woo observes Lee Seo-jin on stage, recalling that he's already famous despite being just a student. All at once, the top freshman appears and the crowd is captivated by her beauty. The young woman scans the crowd with her striking red eyes and a sharp, calculating gaze. Our protagonist senses her smile is strategic, her sole aim is to forge important connections. Shortly after, the third-year representative is introduced, a student who has held the top rank for 3 years. However, Kim Seon-woo knows little about him, as the upperclassman was barely in the original story. The principal then announces it is time for the Academy student oath. At this, the 3 representatives on stage raise their hands to begin the pledge. From the audience, our protagonist watches everything intently, awaiting an opportunity. Beside him, Yuara clenches her hand tightly, appearing to be in considerable pain. Suddenly, a warm aura envelops her, as the boy next to her complains about the sudden wave of heat. Seeing his chance, he thinks about scoring some points, but the girl remarks, "Too bad for you." Eyes flashing with fury, she whirls on Kim Seon-woo, asking if he's addressing her. The young man confirms, and the girl, completely lost, asks what he meant by that. Our hero glances at the stage with a serious expression before delivering his answer. He tells the freshman that, honestly, he believes Yuera is superior to the 2 up there. Annoyed, she retorts, asking if he's mocking her, and if he's ever seen them use magic. He shakes his head and the girl scolds him, demanding to know why he'd say such a thing without any knowledge. The young woman is taken aback by his response when he claims he can just tell by looking. With a confident smirk, Kim Seon-woo concludes by saying he just has good instincts. At this, the girl becomes visibly irritated by our protagonist's audacious comment. Furious, she confronts him, asking if he's making fun of her, which he calmly denies. Seeing his tactic has failed, he decides to switch topics and try a new approach. He then asks if she's been worried about the future, and she wonders in shock how he could possibly know. She then spots his name on his uniform, saying it aloud so she'll never forget. Her eyes blazing with anger, the girl warns that she will remember him, and tells him never to speak to her again. After a threat, she turns and stalks off, leaving our protagonist utterly embarrassed by the outcome. With a despairing look, he realizes he's botched his attempt from the very beginning. The new semester at the Magic Academy kicks off with an evaluation test that sets everyone's ranking. A few students chat anxiously about the test, one of them complaining that he's completely doomed. With a confident grin, another student declares his goal is to make the top 10 for the second year. In his past life, our young man had received several offers for B rank but ultimately remained a C rank. He muses that it would be humiliating if he couldn't at least score average against these kids. The evaluation test finally commences, and a female student prepares to demonstrate her magical abilities. With a battle cry, the young woman unleashes a powerful blast of bluish energy in the test arena. The attack surges forward at high speed toward 3 training dummies. Upon impact, the dummies are completely obliterated into countless fragments. Other students look on impressed, commenting she's so skilled she could be among the best. Next, the announcer declares it's time for the second-year students to showcase their skills. UR steps into the arena and with a serious expression, conjures a ball of fire in her hand. The girl then launches a mighty blast of fire, causing a massive explosion in the arena. The other students are stunned, wondering if she's truly the same age as them. Even with UR's legendary talent, the protagonist feels that Lee Seojin still outshines her. The young hero readies himself for his turn, drawing his weapon with a somber look. In a flash, he dashes forward and delivers a powerful strike that kicks up a great whirlwind. The 3 training dummies then charge toward him, initiating combat. But the young man is far too quick. With a single attack, he demolishes all targets simultaneously. With every dummy down, Lee Seojin's power demonstration concludes successfully. From the audience, UR just mutters in frustration at the result as our protagonist watches. He muses that while she's very good, Lee Seojin is operating on a professional mage's level. Because of this, UR always had the top spot snatched away by him, which must be frustrating. And then finally, the announcer calls the name of Kim Seon-woo from the second year's Class A. With a self-assured smile, our protagonist declares it's finally his turn to shine. From the teacher's section, a woman asks who he is, and a colleague notes his lack of presence. Reviewing his records, she sees the boy had a talent for reinforcement magic but is currently empty-handed. It seems he switched to manifestation magic and is now facing the training targets. Our hero begins to concentrate a small sphere of blue mana in the palm of his hand. Seeing this, the teacher remarks that he seems more ordinary than she'd initially anticipated. However, another instructor notices something, wondering if the boy employed a compression technique. The first stage of magic is materializing mana. Compressing it allows for precise control over the projection. This advanced technique, compression manifestation, is something only veteran mages can typically use. UR is utterly stunned by the sight, unable to believe what her eyes are seeing. Even Lee Seojin, who had been observing, is taken aback by his classmate's skill. The teacher wonders aloud, shocked, how a second-year student can wield such an advanced technique. But as he attempts to launch the attack, the young man stumbles backward from mana exhaustion, and the spell fizzles out. Witnessing his failure, the other students in the audience are left confused by what just happened. A student in the crowd lets out a small smirk, finding the entire situation rather pathetic. The audience then erupts in jeers, mocking him for collapsing from exhaustion without even projecting the magic. Our protagonist panics, thinking he's in some serious trouble now. All at once, multiple system screens begin appearing right before our young man, catching him by surprise. The screens continue to pop up all around him, leaving him completely bewildered. In a state of sheer panic, the young man questions why on earth the system window is opening right now. Back in his room, the protagonist breathes a sigh of relief, glad to be out of that mortifying situation. He wonders why the window appeared there, when last time it opened in his room at this exact hour. With that in mind, the young man begins to ponder what could have changed to cause such a major difference. He then recalls that the last time the system window had also appeared unexpectedly. One message informs him that the outsider's benefits have finally been unlocked. Another system screen alerts the young man that the story's main scenario has officially begun. He also unlocks the second timer achievement, earning him 3,000 points as a reward. To his amazement, he receives the clown's talent achievement and a 5,000 point reward. The notification reveals that 232 people now remember his face, netting him 1,000 points. Because of this, Lee Seojin has taken an interest in him, and 4 main characters have also taken notice. Back in his room, he calculates that he's gained 10,000 points and needs to unlock the benefits to use them. The outsider's benefits are special privileges exclusive to him, the one who possesses this world. With this, the achievement system activates, allowing points to be earned by accumulating feats. Points can also be gained by becoming more well-known, as his latest achievements on the screen show. But the best feature is the point shop, where he can literally purchase traits, skills, or items. He thinks having so many points is fantastic, but there's still one small issue with the situation. Naming the achievement clown's talent was a bit harsh, and the memory of it irritates him. Back then, he would always forget he lacked sufficient mana to perform advanced techniques. But in all honesty, he had never been the center of attention like this in either of his lives. Our young man then wonders about his current strength and decides to check his stats. Seeing the window, he's aghast. His stats have been completely reset despite all the points he invested. He despairs, wondering how on earth he'll manage to raise his attributes again. But then he calms himself, realizing that in this life, he can relocate his stats however he pleases. In this system, there are 4 branches of magic enhancement: manifestation, support, and summoning. Manifestation is classic spell casting, while the other 2 primarily serve supportive roles. And for the record, he chose manifestation as his main skill because he wanted something flashy. With a grin, he decides that since he's chosen this path, he ought to maximize his mana first. The status window then reappears before him, and he's confused by what he sees. He realizes that another 50 people have just been added to the list of those who recognize him. He's astonished by this, thinking that even a foolish moment like that can earn him so many points. The young man gives a thumbs up with a smile. He thinks this is an excellent way to farm points. He then corrects himself, thinking it's not just good, it's absolutely incredible. A new notification pops up: 400 people now remember him, yielding 2,000 points. He can't believe it and grabs his phone to verify something that might explain this. The young man opens the Magic Academy's community app to check the latest buzz. There, he finds a video of his test has gone viral, with every student making fun of him. The protagonist never imagined the video would blow up like this, but despite the humiliation, the points are great. With a greedy glint in his eye, the young man starts to wonder if he could farm even more points from this. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him, and his eyes light up with pure excitement. Phone in hand, he realizes he's captured everyone's attention and can now afford that one thing. The following day at the academy, students start whispering, asking each other if that's really him. They gossip about yesterday's video, and the young man mentally urges them to keep talking. It turns out, he had spent the night promoting himself online to garner attention, and it paid off. The video's title was scandalous, and the comments called him crazy, saying he couldn't use magic. Thanks to all this negative attention, he managed to farm another 5,000 points for his account. With the points secured, he moves on to the next phase of his plan with a very serious expression. Arriving in the classroom, all the students recognize him, pointing him out as the boy from the video. One student points at him and calls him over to his desk for a chat. With a sneer, a blonde student beckons to him, pointing with an air of superiority. He saunters over, remarking that yesterday's test was hilarious and that everyone had a good laugh at his expense. The bully's friends chime in with laughter, asking how he even got into the academy. The blonde student's name is Park In-won, and in the novel, he was the resident bully at the start of the story. Deciding it's best not to engage with him, our protagonist chooses to stay quiet and ignore the taunts. But Park threatens him, saying from now on he'll call him Blockhead, and that he better obey. Abruptly, a voice cuts in, telling Park In-won to stop the theatrics and leave the boy alone. It was Lee Seojin who, with a stern look, reprimands the bully, telling him not to intimidate others. Annoyed by the interruption, Park In-won scowls at the young hero. He accuses him of trying to play the hero, saying ordinary people should just know their place. But Lee Seojin simply repeats the bully's name with a cold, menacing gaze. At that, Park In-won backs down and leaves with his cronies, leaving our young man in peace. Now all eyes in the classroom are on the protagonist, who has once again become the center of attention. Lee Seojin turns him and asks if he's alright, and Kim Seon-woo expresses his thanks. The hero recognizes him as the Kim Seon-woo from yesterday's video and seems concerned. With an embarrassed smile, our young man insists that he's fine and it was no big deal. He covers his face, thinking how mortified he is that the video has already spread everywhere. But Lee Seojin reassures him, saying not to worry, as the person who spread the video is the one at fault. He then bids farewell and begins to leave, with our protagonist still in the classroom. But Kim Seon-woo stops him, grabbing his arm and calling him back for an important discussion. Hesitantly, our protagonist begins to speak to Lee Seojin, who looks back at him puzzled. With a blush, he asks if they can form a team for this semester's dungeon class. The hero is taken aback by the request, wondering why on earth he would choose him for a teammate. With a clever smile, our young man leans in and says the partnership would benefit him as well. Hearing the proposal, Lee Seojin grows thoughtful, carefully weighing the situation before answering. However, he declines the request, stating he never considered Kim Seon-woo as a potential teammate. Undeterred, the protagonist asserts that there are two compelling reasons for the hero to team up with him. Intrigued by his classmate's confidence, Lee Seojin decides to at least hear him out. The young man explains that the first reason is that he is ranked last in the entire second year. The hero can't help but burst into laughter, finding his classmate's reasoning utterly ridiculous. But Kim Seon-woo clarifies that if the top student teams up with the bottom, ranked one, their final score will be higher. Lee Seojin sees the logic but still feels the risk of partnering with him is too great. Our protagonist then prepares to present his second and more crucial argument. He reveals that U-era has already selected 2 low-ranking students for a team this semester. The hero concedes that since she specializes in area of effect magic, she would manage well even with a weaker team. Then he holds up 3 fingers, and Lee Seojin reminds him he'd only mentioned 2 reasons. The third reason was himself. For someone in last place, the young man was surprisingly decent in combat. The young hero can't contain his amusement and starts laughing, finding his classmate quite funny. With a smile, he finally agrees to form the team, and our protagonist silently celebrates the win. But Lee Seojin adds that there's one condition, leaving our young man surprised and curious. The condition is that Lee Seojin gets to pick the rest of the team. At that, the hero extends his hand to seal the deal. As they shake hands, the system announces the hero's interest in him, and the young man earns 2,000 points. The scene shifts to a classroom, where a teacher is lecturing on the origin of magic. She explains that in the 14th century, magic was divided into just 2 branches, not the 4 of today. The instructor continues, stating the 2-branch system collapsed, and then asks the class why. To everyone's astonishment, our protagonist raises his hand, and the teacher calls on him to answer. He replies that it was because of Bloodsword, the first enhancement mage, a fact the teacher confirms. She elaborates that his appearance was a shock, and from that point, research into manifestation magic surged. The young man reflects that while theory is tough even for Lee Seojin, it's a breeze for him thanks to his benefits. With a smug smile, Kim Smile-woo continues to jot down notes with remarkable ease. Other students begin to whisper about him, calling him Hermione, and questioning his sudden studiousness. Annoyed by their comments, he thinks that if they're so envious, they should try answering too. With that, the teacher finally dismisses the class, announcing the start of the lunch break. Students begin to file out of the classroom, eager for their well-deserved midday break. But just as Kim Seon-woo is about to leave, someone calls his name, causing him to stop in his tracks. He turns to see who it is, and is surprised by the person who called out to him. It was Lee Seojin inviting him to lunch since they were now on the same team. The scene then shows a school lunch tray holding what appears to be a very balanced meal. The two of them walk through the cafeteria with their trays, and our young man spots an empty table. And then 2 hands suddenly appear before them, waving in a very lively and welcoming gesture. A highly energetic young man waves at Lee Seojin, inviting him to sit at his table. Our protagonist instantly recognizes him as Shin Youngjin, a character from the novel. The hero joins him, and his friend asks what took him so long to get to the cafeteria. Shin Youngjin laughs, remarking that the top-ranked students split up to avoid damaging their grades. At this, the hero's friend finally notices our protagonist standing there with them. He recognizes him from the video, and Kim Seon, who confirms he is indeed the boy from the test. The friend asks how long they've been close, and Lee Seojin explains they're heading to the dungeon together. Upon hearing this, Shin Youngjin is completely flabbergasted, his face twisting into a comical expression of surprise. He then whispers to the hero that he doesn't get why he'd go through all that trouble. Lee Seojin simply mentions Yuera's name, wondering about her reasoning. His friend explains he heard she also teamed up with 2 low-ranking students. With that, he suggests they just eat, and our young man agrees as he was starving. But from another table, a mysterious girl watches the group of boys with a keen eye. It was Seo Yuna, the very girl who had posted his video online for the world to see. A friend approaches her, asking what has captured her attention so intently in the cafeteria. The girl feigns indifference, saying it's nothing important, trying to steer the conversation away, but her fixed gaze on the boys reveals she is still very much invested in the situation. The young woman wonders how Kim Seon-woo managed to get close to the upperclassman Lee Seojin. The scene then cuts to a training room where several students are practicing their magic. Our protagonist readies himself, deciding to work on manifesting the mana he can control. He projects the sphere of mana he's created, holding it steady in his hands with deep concentration. The bluish energy sphere then zips across the training room under his command. The mana attack strikes the target, making a considerable impact on the wall. The other students comment in surprise that he's better than they had expected. Our protagonist overhears their comments, feeling a mix of irritation and satisfaction. He then recalls that before regressing, he used all his points to purchase stats. In his past life, he spent everything impulsively on stat upgrades. But the system notes that the cost increases every 10 purchases, making things progressively more expensive. Reflecting on this, he realizes it's not the most effective long-term strategy. He therefore decides it would be wiser to use items to boost his stats over time. So he uses the search function, looking for mana-related items in the system's shop. The young man finds the Blessing of Great Nature trait, priced at 50,000 points. The item provides extra mana during training and boosts recovery by 50%. Additionally, he finds the Returner's Wristwatch, which enhances regeneration. To afford these, he had to sell his very useful Master Chef trait. But thanks to these acquisitions, his starting position is now far better than before. Abruptly, his cell phone starts vibrating in his pocket, catching him completely by surprise. Confused, he takes out the device to see who could be messaging him. Looking at the screen, he grows even more puzzled, wondering what on earth he's seeing. The look on his face is one of total bewilderment at the message he just received. He gets a notification and sees he's been added to a group chat with his new teammates. The young man thinks that, aside from Yoon Hae-young, he doesn't know anyone and wonders if they're all low-ranked. He remembers she becomes important later on, but for now, her ability remains dormant. In the chat, Lee Seojin asks everyone to state their specialties to get better acquainted. Jaehyun states he support Hae-young is Ice Manifestation and Jin-tae is Enhancement. Our protagonist then types that he's also Manifestation but lacks an elemental affinity. A teammate then jokes that everyone already knows that, and the young man gets annoyed by the quip. He then lays out the plan Lee Seojin will be at the center, with the rest of the team providing support. Our young man figures that to win, they must outperform Yuara's team and wonders about her roster. The scene shifts to an outdoor training area where numerous students are practicing their magic. The instructor advises his student to focus less on control and more on the projection of his magic. At that moment, Yura concentrates, preparing a potent fire spell with her hands. With a swift motion, she launches a massive fireball that explodes with tremendous force. The other students and the instructor are left in awe of the girl's display of power. The teacher thinks the young woman is exceptionally skilled, attributing it to natural talent. But she also notes that due to her youth, the girl still needs to refine her abilities. Her mana control needs work. The instructor then turns her attention to Lee Seojin's training. Suddenly, she's so shocked by what she sees that her glasses nearly slide off her face. The young hero's attack strikes the target with absolutely flawless precision and power. Composing herself, the teacher thinks to herself that his performance was quite impressive. A confident smile on his face, our protagonist seems determined to showcase his progress. The instructor recalls that he used to focus so intensely on materializing that he couldn't project at all. But now, with minimal mana, he achieves perfect projection and control. Observing his training, she thinks it's incredible that he identified his weaknesses at such a young age. With a satisfied smile, the teacher is clearly proud of her student's remarkable progress. The sun begins to set on the horizon, signaling the end of another training day at the academy. With that, the teacher concludes a specialty class, congratulating everyone on their hard work. The students start to depart, one commenting that the class was a great way to relieve stress. But as Kim Seon-woo is leaving, the instructor calls out to him. He turns surprised. She praises his hard work and asks if he's been training, to which the young man confirms he has. The teacher then inquires about his mana training, wanting to know if he's been dedicating time to it. He realizes she's noticed his mana reserves are too low for his current level of control. A bit sheepishly, the young man confirms he's working on improving his capacity. She acknowledges his mana is low but reminds him there are no shortcuts, so he must continue to put in the effort. The young man promises to do his best, and at that moment, he glances down at his wristwatch. Noticing his concern, the teacher offers him a bracelet that can help stabilize his condition. The young man feels awkward, saying he doesn't know if he should accept such a gift from her. But she insists, explaining it's just an F-rank item that costs next to nothing to create. With that, he thanks her and promises to use the item well, and the teacher departs with a smile. Walking through the courtyard, he reflects that he scored unexpectedly well and is pleased with the day's outcome. Along the path, he spots Yura leaning against a wall and wonders what she could want with him now. With a serious expression, the girl calls him by name, looking like she wants to have an important conversation. The young man reminds her that she was the one who told him never to speak to her again, which irritates the girl. She then reveals she heard he's in the same group as Lee Sejin, surprising the young man. The girl accuses him of latching onto the top student and declares that first place will be hers this time. With a fiery gaze, she tells him to wake up from his dream because he doesn't have the slightest chance of winning. After a warning, Yura turns and walks away, leaving him behind with her arrogant words. The protagonist is left utterly baffled, wondering why she is so irritating all the time. On Thursday morning, various students gather before the dungeon entrances. A team member arrives running and breathless, exclaiming he made it just in time. Lee Seojin then rallies the group, encouraging them to give their all as the semester begins. At this, the team's spirits lift, and the only girl in the group cheers them on to do their best. But one of his teammates remarks that their team is rather odd and points something out. He notes that they have both the top student and the last place student together, making the young man wonder if that was a dig at him. The teammate then confronts him, asking if he can pull his weight since he couldn't even cast a spell. With that comment, Kim Seon-woo is certain it was a direct taunt. But Lee Seojin interjects that it doesn't matter, as he'll carry him if he has to. Our protagonist dislikes that idea, thinking the plan is just for him to be a dead weight for the hero. He then glances at Yoon Hae-young, noticing the team's composition is very different from the original. Looking at his companions, he wonders if this group can actually succeed in the test. An instructor calls for everyone's attention and begins to explain the dungeon exploration rules. He informs them that the class will run in the morning and afternoon, and on the first day, they will only explore level 1. The master continues his explanation, detailing how exploration scores will be calculated. The first criterion is speed. The faster they clear the dungeon, the more points they earn. The second is rank disparity. The more lower ranked members on a team, the more personal points are awarded. And finally, the third criterion is each individual's contribution to the team's success. The dungeon employs a special contribution system where students earn bonus points for assisting. Above all, safety is the top priority. With that, the instructor directs the teams to enter. The scene shifts to a monitoring room filled with screens displaying the dungeon's interior. The instructor enters the room, greeted by other teachers who confirm he sent the students in. One of them mentions she was waiting for him so they could start placing bets on the highest scoring team. A professor says he's chosen Group 7, and another remarks that this means there's no real bet this time. But our protagonist teacher adjusts her glasses with a very shrewd look. With a confident smile, she declares they can still bet, because she's putting her money on Group 3. An instructor finds this ludicrous, as even with the bonus points, the two teams are worlds apart. He explains that Lee Seojin's team is unstable because there's a limit to what he can achieve alone. On the other hand, Era, with her area of effect magic, has already reached the middle of the dungeon's first floor. But the teacher maintains her faith in the underdog's rise, saying she'll see who wins the bet. Inside the dungeon, Lee Seojin battles bravely against a shadowy monster with his sword. Meanwhile, his team navigates the dark corridors cautiously surrounded by giant rats. With the team assembled, they advance confidently through the dungeon's shadowy hallways, prepared for anything. A teammate praises Lee Seojin's fighting skill, and another agrees they're already halfway done. They then begin to speculate about the floor boss, guessing it must be a rather weak monster. The girl insists that as a boss, it should be strong, but the others guess it's probably a rat or a dog. At this, the young woman asks Kim Seon-woo for his opinion, and he asserts that a giant wolf will appear. His teammate questions how he could possibly know, and the young man cryptically says he has his ways, thinking to himself that he's done this before. Seeing this, another team member calls him a compulsive liar, clearly not believing his prediction. Our protagonist simply tells him to believe it or not, which further irritates the other young man. At this, a group member urges them to stop bickering and continue moving through the dungeon. And so, the team resumes their trek through the dark corridors to finally confront the floor boss. But suddenly, Kim Seon-woo tells everyone to halt. A teammate asks, "What is it now?" The young man teases, asking if he's gotten scared, but our hero says there's something on the ground ahead. Confused, the other team members peer at the floor, trying to understand what he's referring to. A massive blue magic circle then materializes on the ground, and a teammate admits he has no idea what it is. One wonders if it's dangerous, while another reasons the academy wouldn't put students in genuine peril. Unfazed by the potential danger, our protagonist crouches down to inspect the circle more closely. Lee Seojin advises him to be careful, but the young man assures him it's fine and he's just taking a look. With a serious expression, the young man analyzes the magic circle with intense care and attention. He then stands and announces just a simple barrier. A teammate asks how he can be so sure. He thinks to himself that he's seen this exact barrier in his past life and extends a hand to disable it. With a touch, the barrier's energy reacts to his hand, and he begins to analyze it with calm precision. His teammate watches, stunned, then tries to play it off, claiming he actually knew all of that already. Worried, the others wonder if they'll have to turn back, since they can't pass the magical barrier. Lee Seojin then draws his gleaming sword, declaring he'll try to slice through the force field. His eyes shine with power as he prepares to unleash a strike with all his might. In a swift motion, he delivers a powerful horizontal slash against the magical barrier before him. The attack connects squarely with the barrier, creating a small crack on the force field's surface. Seeing the crack, the team celebrates, thinking the hero's blow was enough to shatter it. But the barrier instantly regenerates, and our protagonist thinks that was an incredibly close call. Lee Seojin sheathes his weapon, confident that with the right strategy, they can get through. A teammate then steps forward, asking if this is finally his moment to shine. With a self-assured grin, he boasts to everyone that he's the support specialist of their team. He then kneels before the circle, asking for a bit of time to properly analyze it. With that, the young man places his hand on the magic circle, attempting to understand its workings. But he's completely baffled by what he senses, unable to comprehend the highly complex magic. He estimates it will take about 40 minutes, but our hero stops him, firmly grabbing his hand. The protagonist tells him to wait, asserting that he will break the barrier himself right here. Annoyed, the teammate confronts him, demanding to know what on earth he thinks he's doing. Ignoring his colleague, Kim Seon-woo places both hands on the magic circle with a focused expression. He then begins to channel his mana into the barrier, which glows intensely, poised to shatter. In doing so, his unique trait activates, and the system starts decoding the barrier's magical formula. A screen with a jumble of words appears. He must find the correct password to proceed. Using his prior knowledge, he quickly assembles the phrase, Korea Magic Academy, and grasps the trick. His eyes gleam with confidence. He knows exactly what needs to be done to solve this puzzle. The letters then scramble once more before him, presenting a new challenge to be solved. But the young man manages to rearrange everything again, and the barrier's final password is at last revealed. With the password in mind, he touches the magic circle to finally disable the protective field. The barrier dissolves into particles of light, leaving his teammates completely stunned by the sight. A victorious smile on his face, our protagonist turns and announces that he has broken the seal. The other team members stand there, mouths agape, wondering how he accomplished that so quickly. A system screen then informs him that the character Lee Seojin was thoroughly impressed by his skill. As a result, the hero's interest in him has deepened, and he gains a new level of affinity with the young man. With this, he reaches interest level 1 and also receives 5,000 points as a huge reward. Our young man is confused, wondering about this new interest level system with the characters. But without warning, a giant paw with razor-sharp claws materializes right in front of them. At the top of the stairs, an enormous wolf with crimson eyes appears, glaring furiously at the team. It was the first floor's boss, the giant wolf, just as our hero had predicted earlier. His teammates are shocked, and one of them realizes Kim Seon, who had been right about the monster all along. Wasting no time, the beast leaps toward the group of students, ready to initiate the great battle. But Lee Seojin remains unfazed with a serious expression. He prepares for the fight. The wolf lunges, but the hero defeats it with a single, powerful strike from his radiant golden sword. With the monster vanquished, the young hero turns around, a calm and confident look on his face. Our young man thinks Lee Seojin is incredible for dispatching the boss, as if it were just another common monster. With the boss's defeat, the large stone door at the end of the chamber finally begins to creak open for them. The team then exits the dungeon, one member cheering exuberantly that the mission is finally over. Outside, an instructor congratulates them, informing them they've secured second place for the first week. The hero asks who took first, and the master replies it was Group 7, who finished 30 minutes faster. A small smile plays on Lee Seojin's lips as he realizes first place was claimed by UR's team. His teammates are shocked by her time and grow anxious, as third place is only 2 minutes behind them. Overhearing the conversation, our protagonist seems to have an idea to resolve this tricky situation. But one of his teammates turns to Kim Seon-woo with a smile, thanking him for helping them get second place. The teammate continues his praise, saying that if he hadn't broken the barrier, their situation would be much worse. The hero blames himself for the loss, but the girl in the group insists they only made it this far because of him. This boosts the team's morale, and Lee Seojin declares it's not over yet, they can still make a comeback. Suddenly, a red-haired instructor approaches from behind and calls Kim Seon-woo by name. He turns to the woman, recognizing her as the instructor for the Academy's support magic class. She says she's come to make him a proposal, and the young man is curious to hear what it's about. The instructor then grabs his arm, exclaiming that the young man must transfer to the support class immediately. Our protagonist is completely stunned and speechless at the teacher's sudden demand. But with a serious expression, the young man flatly refuses her proposal without a second thought. The instructor is taken aback by his refusal and pleads with him to at least hear her terms. She then offers a scholarship of 50 million won, but the young man still turns down the offer. With that, the instructor leaves and a teammate asks if Kim Seon-woo has lost his mind for refusing that. Other students mutter that he's terrible at manifestation and that they would have accepted in a heartbeat. All at once, UR appears, asking if he's really not going to switch his magical specialty. Our protagonist just meets her gaze in silence, offering no response to the girl's question. Someone explains that the special talent status comes with more perks, and the young man notices UR's presence. He then says he appreciates the offer, but he is a manifestation type through and through and will not change his mind. The girl is left completely bewildered and shocked by our protagonist's firm and resolute answer. The scene then transitions to the imposing Magic Academy building under a clear, bright blue sky. Inside, a girl walks alone down a corridor, brightly illuminated by the sunlight from outside. Her eyes widen slightly as she notices something, or someone, else in the corridor with her. The young woman then spots a person further down and wonders who that student could be. It was our protagonist, busy cleaning the floor. Upon seeing her, he greets her with a simple hello. The girl recognizes him but calls him by the wrong name, Kim Shinuk, with a very cheerful smile. The young man corrects her, and the girl apologizes for the mistake, then asks why he's cleaning the hallway. He simply replies that it was dirty, so he decided to clean it. We see the floor is now sparkling clean. The young woman is impressed by his initiative and praises him, calling him a very cool upperclassman. She then bids him farewell with a wave, telling him to keep up the good work. But as she turns away, her expression shifts, and she thinks to herself that what he's doing is pointless. A system screen appears informing him he's earned the domestic fairy achievement and another 1,000 points. Looking at the screen, he thinks he can't possibly admit he cleaned everything just to get a system achievement. With the cleaning done, the young man picks up his bucket, pleased with the results of his hard work. He then leaves, humming a tune, completely unaware that someone has been watching him from a distance the entire time. Hidden behind a wall, a mysterious student observes him with a very suspicious smile. The scene shifts to a classroom where a professor is lecturing about the various types of existing monsters. He explains there are humanoids, beasts, and flyers, but one type is more dangerous than all the rest. The professor reveals that the most perilous monsters of all are the ones known as mains. The master then asks the class if anyone knows why these particular monsters are so dangerous. Our protagonist answers that it's because they are impossible to distinguish from ordinary humans. The master confirms this, adding that they control other monsters and have already infiltrated human society. The professor explains their eyes turn black under certain conditions, and the young man ponders this information. This reminds him that the episode featuring the first appearance of a main is this weekend. In this part of the story, Lee Seojin, despite being a student, defeats the creature and garners significant attention. He relaxes, assuming the hero can handle everything on his own without any assistance. But just to be safe, he decides he should check for any other potential dangers nearby. He then panics at the thought that he'll need money to go out with the hero and has no idea what to do. Elsewhere, a student is seen meditating, completely enveloped by a potent green mana aura. The young man appears to be concentrating intensely to control the vast magical power he possesses. And as he trains, several system screens appear before him, displaying his remarkable progress. The system indicates his mana has increased and the proficiency of his Blessing of Great Nature has risen. With a satisfied smile, he stretches, thinking all his training has finally been worth it. Abruptly, a new system notification appears right in front of him, catching him by surprise. The screen announces that his Blessing of Great Nature has finally evolved to a level 2 rank. With this, the trait's active effect is unlocked, allowing him to now use the Heart of Great Nature skill. He's ecstatic about the news, thinking that buying that item was the best decision he's ever made. The ability boosts his mana recovery by 1000% but has a 24-hour cooldown. A confident smile on his face, he thinks that now he is truly prepared to be a manifestation mage. He then thinks of the teacher, realizing his barrier-breaking skills are solely to his outsider benefits. The young man admits he can't create barriers himself, which puts the support class completely out of the question for him. Checking his bank balance, he sees he only has 30,801 and says the students are poor. Discouraged by his lack of funds, our protagonist slumps to the floor, feeling utterly defeated. He begins to wonder if there's an easy way to make some quick cash for his plans. His first thought is hunting monsters in dungeons, but he deems that too dangerous for him at the moment. Another idea is to climb the difficulty towers, but even the easiest ones would pose a significant challenge. To make matters worse, as a minor, he can't even obtain the necessary license to do so. With few viable options, the young man scratches his head, trying to brainstorm a solution to his problem. Suddenly, a light bulb goes off in his head. He seems to have found the perfect solution for everything. In the teacher's lounge, two instructors are chatting, one mentioning he saw a very admirable student today. A female teacher overhears and with a smirk asks if that student happened to be Kim Son-woo. The professor confirms her suspicion, explaining that the young man came to school early just to clean everything. Another master chimes in that he's very focused during theory lessons and that his attitude is simply excellent. With a proud smile, the manifestation teacher says that's just how her students are. She then playfully teases her support colleague, saying she always knew her student wouldn't succumb to temptation. The teachers continue to praise the young man, calling him a diligent and exemplary student. Our protagonist then wonders to himself what would happen if he were no longer just a simple student. With a smug grin, he asks himself if he's a genius for coming up with such a brilliant idea. The system then informs him he's earned the teacher's pet achievement and another 2,000 points. With points in hand, he enters the system shop and uses the search function to find an item. He then purchases an item for 10,000 points, determined to make the investment worthwhile. With his plan set, he sits down to meditate, confident he can earn a good amount of money from this. The scene shifts to Saturday morning in front of the city's Grand Magic Academy building. Our protagonist approaches a guard, looking ready to put his new plan into motion. With a serious expression, the young man extends his hand and demands the guard give him a mage license on the spot. The guard reaches into his pocket to retrieve what our protagonist requested. With a smile, he hands a mage license to the young man, who accepts it with a very confident air. The license displays his photo with the name Kim Jinwoo and an age of 25, surprising everyone. The guard takes the license to verify the document's authenticity, looking thoughtful. He then pulls out a device to scan the license and confirm if all the information is valid. But suddenly, his eyes glaze over as if hypnotized, and he can no longer think clearly. The device then confirms the identity as C-rank mage Kim Jinwoo, 25 years of age. With his identity verified, our protagonist takes back the license with a very satisfied smile. He thinks to himself that he was incredibly nervous, but deep down, knew he wouldn't be caught with the fake ID. With a smirk, he muses that the new identity he purchased from the system shop is perfect. The item, which cost 10,000 points, allowed him to create a new identity complete with a mage license. He explains that mage licenses in this world are special because they are impossible to forge. On top of that, he was wearing color-changing glasses, making his disguise flawless. Checking the time, he realizes Lee Seojin's fight starts at 9:30 and he needs to get a move on. With his plan in motion, the young man steps into a portal of light, ready to begin his mission in the tower. A voice welcomes him to the Tower of Trials as he enters the location with a serious expression. The system informs him he can ascend to the 27th floor, and the circle on the ground begins to glow. A system screen asks which floor he wishes to go to, and the young man prepares his answer. He selects the 10th floor, but the system warns that since it's already been cleared, the rewards will be diminished. But with a confident smile, he says that's no problem, as his objective in this tower is something else entirely. The young man is then teleported, and a screen explains that portals are highly convenient transport devices. There are many types of towers in this world, each presenting its own unique challenges and dangers. The strength of the monsters inhabiting the towers varies significantly depending on the location. And besides the monsters, the difficulty of the traps also differs from one tower to another. In a brilliant flash of light, our protagonist finally arrives on the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials. The Tower of Trials is a place most guilds avoid due to its exceptional difficulty. On the 10th floor, a creature with 3 glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows, fixing its gaze on the young man. It was the floor's boss, a massive 3-eyed wolf, preparing to attack our protagonist. Wasting no time, the beast charges forward with full force, its maw wide open, ready for combat. But the young man defeats it in a single blow, thinking the monsters here are weaker than they appear. For this, he earns the First Hunt achievement and receives another 1,000 points as a system reward. He then muses that this tower is perfect for him, filled as it is with traps and magical formulas. Glancing at his watch, the young man sees he has more than enough time to complete his objective here. With a smile, he continues to press forward through the tower's dark corridors, seeking his target. The scene then cuts to the bank of the Han River, where a large crowd of people has gathered. In the midst of the crowd, Lee Seojin and his friend observe the scene, commenting on the people. The friend suggests they take a photo, but the hero seems a bit embarrassed by the idea. But his companion insists, throwing an arm around him and saying it's all part of making good memories. With that, he readies his phone for the picture and begins the countdown to the big moment. Back in the tower, our hero defeats another monster with a powerful blast of bluish mana. Upon its defeat, the monster leaves behind a magic crystal, and the young man feels that luck is on his side. He picks up the crystal, thinking that this alone will cover his transportation costs. After that, the young man approaches a wall and begins searching for something only he knows is there. He finally finds a secret mechanism that starts to glow with a strong, golden light. Upon touching the secret spot, a hidden passage begins to reveal itself right before him. His hand is enveloped in golden particles as he at last unlocks the secret of the tower. For this, he earns the Barrier Breaker achievement and another 2,000 points as a reward. The young man then steps into the tower's secret floor, and the system congratulates him on another achievement. With an enormous grin, he celebrates finally reaching this hidden location. Suddenly, a mysterious voice addresses him as Challenger of the Tower of Trials, catching him by surprise. A statue of a goddess then asks if he can prove himself, leaving the young man confused. The statue's eyes glow with a golden light, and a powerful wave of energy strikes our hero. The young man is thrown backward by the force, finding himself in a field of flowers surrounded by orbs of light. The orbs of light then transform, and he realizes he's in a beautiful garden filled with various flowers. And to his surprise, numerous fairies begin to appear around him, regarding him with curiosity. Our protagonist is a bit startled, wondering what on earth these fairies are doing here. He recognizes the creatures as flower fairies and knows that despite being C rank, they are not to be underestimated. With menacing smiles and sharp teeth, the fairies prepare to attack our protagonist. He knows they are crazed monsters that lose all control at the sight of a human and readies himself to fight. Without hesitation, the fairies unleash powerful blasts of energy toward our hero with full force. With a confident smirk, the young man thinks that to defeat them, speed is the key to victory. He then launches a blue mana sphere that strikes one of the fairies' head on in mid-air. The impacted fairy drops to the ground, completely knocked out by our protagonist's precise shot. After the battle, the young man kneels atop a magic circle to begin the next phase of the trial. With a serious expression, he concludes that even if he defeats all the fairies, he won't be able to clear the floor. The statue asks again if he can prove himself, and the young man thinks he cannot prove his individuality. At this, his unique outsider trait activates, and the system begins to decode the magical formula. A screen filled with various scrambled words appears before him, like a massive puzzle. The magic circle on the floor then glows with an intense light, responding to the young man's power. The statue observes as he faces the panel, attempting to decipher the formula and pass the test. With a confident smile, he accepts the challenge, declaring he will prove himself to the tower. He then understands that his individuality is precisely this ability to decode the formula. This is the skill he gained as an outsider, and now he will unleash it with everything he's got. For his success, he earns an achievement and 10,000 points for being acknowledged by the tower. Furthermore, the tower bestows its blessing upon him, and a new adaptive trait is finally added. Numerous rare rewards materialize before him, including a dragon's soul and sacred herbs. To top it all off, his mana and magic power stats also receive a significant boost in the process. The system congratulates him for clearing the secret floor as celebratory fireworks go off. Meanwhile, at the Han River, Lee Seojin and his friend are watching the fireworks display that has just started. The hero then shows something on his phone to his friend, who is puzzled by the action. The young man sees the photo they took and asks why his friend is showing it to him again. But the young hero tells him to look closer. In the background, a suspicious man in a hat is visible. Seeing the mysterious figure, the hero's friend is in complete shock and stares at the phone in panic. He remembers the man's eyes and wonders in terror if that is a main-type monster. Back in the tower, our protagonist sees the reflection of the same suspicious man in the glass before him. The monster then stares at him, its red eye glowing, as a malevolent aura completely envelopes it. He checks the clock and wonders why Lee Seojin hasn't arrived yet, as it's almost time. Worried, the young man questions whether he'll have to intervene to save the people from the monster. But he reasons that the event is part of the main storyline, and acting rashly could throw everything into chaos. Nearby, a young man approaches the disguised monster and, unaware of the danger, asks if he's okay. The monster turns to him, its red eyes glowing with an aura of pure malice. Witnessing this from a distance, our protagonist panics, realizing something is terribly wrong. And in the blink of an eye, the monster mercilessly attacks the innocent young man who tried to help it. The young man is shocked by the scene, seeing his classmate with a bruised face, terrified. Unable to react, the young man is seized by the monster, which holds him tightly, ready for its next attack. With a wicked smile, the monster glares at its victim with its crimson eyes and sharp fangs. The creature then strikes the young man again, grievously wounding him with its claws and dark powers. The young man collapses to the ground, completely defeated and with no chance of surviving the brutal assault. With its first victim down, the monster begins to transform into its true demonic form. Its shirt rips as its body bulks up, its eyes glowing an intense red. A nearby girl is frozen in shock at the scene, staring at the monster in utter terror. The monster then turns to her, its eyes glowing as a purple aura envelops it. People in the vicinity panic, screaming that a main has gone berserk. Our protagonist grips his weapon tightly, knowing he must act fast to save everyone. With a determined look, he surges toward the monster, thinking there's no time to hesitate. He faces the creature, thinking that whether it's part of the story or not, he is going to fight. With a resolved gaze, he advances, his priority being the safety of the people. Meanwhile, Lee Seojin gets a call. An agent informs him they've checked the photo he sent. Agent Jung Hyun-soo confirmed based on the eyes the suspect is unequivocally a main-type monster. He asks if the photo was taken nearby, and the young hero confirms the monster's location. The agent expresses concern, as the monster has appeared at a crowded festival, and the more it absorbs, the stronger it becomes. Lee Seojin is stunned by this news, finally grasping the gravity of their situation. Suddenly, the hero senses a massive surge of magical power, and he and his friend race toward the source. Some people question if the area is safe, but our protagonist ignores them, pressing onward. He spots the monster terrorizing a girl, and the young man prepares to intervene and save her. With a furious expression, the monster turns and hurls a table in the girl's direction. The young woman screams in terror, seeing the object hurtling toward her with no hope of escape. But our hero uses his weapon to shatter the table, thinking that was a close call. Enraged, the monster begins to chase the girl and the other people who were in the vicinity. Our protagonist knows the monster is B rank and that charging in recklessly will end badly for him. He concentrates all his mana into a sphere of energy, preparing to strike its weak point. The mana sphere hits the monster's back squarely, creating a large explosion of blue energy. The monster turns to face its new adversary, and our young man stands his ground, awaiting its next move. As the smoke clears, he realizes the attack wasn't as potent as he had initially hoped. The monster's face begins to regenerate, and it glares at our protagonist with a look of pure fury. Suddenly, the monster's mouth gapes open, and a bizarre, grotesque tongue extends from within its head. He realizes his attack wasn't strong enough to completely destroy the creature's brain. Enraged, the monster lunges at him to retaliate, but our protagonist manages to dodge. The creature then leaps into the air, attempting to crush him with its body, but the young man escapes just in time. He thinks he wanted to save his special ability, but now he has no choice but to use it. With that, he activates the Heart of Great Nature, and his mana recovery skyrockets by 1000%. With his power amplified, he creates numerous mana spheres, remarking he might not finish this in a minute. A confident smile on his face, he launches the attacks, saying he can at least severely weaken it. The energy spheres fly at high speed toward the monster, which braces itself to defend. The creature attempts to block the attacks with its arms, but the force of the blows is simply overwhelming. Though injured, the monster remains on its feet, glaring at our protagonist with pure hatred. Without giving the enemy a moment's rest, our young man unleashes another barrage of mana attacks with full force. The creature continues to defend itself, but the young man's relentless assault begins to overwhelm it. With a defiant smile, our hero taunts it to keep blocking if it still can. Enraged, the monster screams that it will crush his head and launches a final, desperate attack. But our protagonist's blow is stronger, and the monster roars in pain from the magical impact. Seeing his plan is working, the young man prepares to press the attack with everything he has. But abruptly, the blue aura of his ability begins to fade, catching him off guard mid-fight. He realizes with a jolt that the 1-minute duration is past, and he is now in serious trouble. As the effect wears off, the pain in his injured arm returns, putting him at a great disadvantage. The monster turns to him with a malevolent grin, saying it can't hold back any longer. But suddenly a blue blur flashes past at high speed, defeating the monster with a single, precise strike. Our protagonist is stunned by the scene, unable to believe what just transpired. In a single blow, the monster is utterly vanquished, collapsing to the ground in several lifeless pieces. Agent Jung Hyun-soo then approaches, announcing the situation has finally been resolved successfully. He introduces himself and thanks the young man for his assistance, noting it made everything in more easily. Our hero then presents his mage license to the agent, who takes it for verification. The agent is surprised to see he's only a C rank, having assumed he was at least a B rank. All at once, Lee Seojin and his friend finally arrive on the scene, taking in the aftermath of the battle. Our protagonist is shocked to see the two of them there and is unsure how to react. He turns and realizes Lee Seojin and Shin Youngjin are now standing right in front of him. With an awkward smile, he thinks to himself that they should have arrived much earlier to help in the fight. The young hero studies him with a serious expression, feeling a sense of familiarity, as if he's seen him somewhere before. Taking a step forward, Lee Seojin approaches, ready to finally get some answers about the young man. Our protagonist feels a bit nervous at his approach but tries to remain calm to avoid messing things up. The hero then asks if by any chance he knows a Magic Academy student named Kim Seon-woo. His friend notes the resemblance and asks if he's a relative of the student they know. But our young man feigns ignorance, claiming he's never heard that name in his life. The agent then clears him, telling him not to cause any more trouble and to leave the area promptly. With that, the agent thanks him once more for his help, and our protagonist prepares to depart. Lee Seojin continues to watch him with a suspicious gaze as he walks away from the scene of the battle. With an embarrassed smile, he says he just did what was necessary to save people. He then bids the agent farewell, and the girl he rescued thanks him for saving her life. Abruptly, a system screen appears, leaving him confused as to what is happening. The system reports his participation in the defeat of the B-rank villain, much to the young man's disbelief. A minor alteration in the plot is detected, and he is rewarded with 5,300 points. He then wonders about this new causality rate that has appeared on the system screen. The system explains the rate is earned by resolving events and can be used to activate special powers. This makes him wonder if he could have intervened and saved Lee Seojin from his fate in the other life. The power screen reveals that with 100 causality points, he can achieve anything he desires. The ability is called Deus Ex Machina and can literally grant any of the user's wishes. He starts to wonder if he could even return to his own world using this new power. Realizing the opportunity before him, he understands there's no longer any reason to hesitate. He resolves that to protect Lee Seojin and accumulate causality, he must now intervene actively. With his newfound determination, the young man appears ready to change destiny and save everyone. Suddenly, he receives a message notifying him that the 15 million reward has been deposited. He then decides to treat himself a little with the money he just earned from the battle. With that in mind, he heads to the Hansung Hotel, a 5-star establishment exclusive to mages. Our protagonist strolls through the hotel lobby, reflecting that the Hansung Group is a global corporation. Their focus is on power, influence, and wealth, and they even play a significant role in the story. 2 female employees welcome him, and the young man gives them a serious look. He then recognizes the vice president of the Han Group, Han Sejin, the frontrunner to inherit the entire company. An employee approaches him, informing him that his sister has confirmed her attendance at tonight's dinner. The man is pleased by this news, and our protagonist overhears the name Han Sayan mentioned. A smile graces his face as he thinks he'll finally get to meet the character named Sayan. The scene then shifts to the hotel room, where our young man is preparing for his next mission. He examines the items he acquired from the tower, planning his next move with each one. He decides to sell the spear as it draws too much attention, and to save the book for later. With a determined look, he thinks he needs to wait until tomorrow to finally make his move. The next day, breaking news about the Tower of Trials appears on the room's television. The reporter announces that an individual is gaining attention for clearing the tower's secret floor. And to everyone's surprise, this same person also defeated a main in the Han River Park shortly thereafter. In response, the Mage Association praised the feats of the hero Kim Jinwoo and is considering a rank promotion. On the streets, people are buzzing, shocked that all this happened in a single day. He then earns the Little Hero achievement and an additional 21,000 points from the news coverage. With this newfound fame, he believes his new identity has finally gained enough credibility for him to act. He heads to the large Hansung pharmaceutical building to finally meet with Sayan. Upon his arrival, the employees recognize him from television and are excited by the new hero's presence. He thinks to himself that fame certainly has its perks and continues through the lobby with a confident stride. But then he spots someone who catches his eye, making him slightly apprehensive. It was the S-rank mage Jang Suji, the sword of the Hansung family and one of the story's most powerful characters. He is shocked to see an S-rank mage there, just as a receptionist recognizes him from the news. Our hero introduces himself, stating he would like to sell some herbs he brought from the Tower of Trials. In a meeting room, he is greeted by a woman who finds it odd to be visited by someone so famous. It was Han Sayan, the youngest daughter of the Hansung Group, and she seems quite intrigued by the herbs he's brought. She observes that the herbs emit a unique energy and lack the basic mana stem found in other plants. The young woman asks how he discovered the herb's properties, and the young man claims he spent years studying medicine. He explains that the sacred herb is a special resource that amplifies the effects of other ingredients. She is surprised as the herb is inert on its own, and at this point in the timeline, it's both rare and difficult to process. Because of this, only a genius in the field could handle such a complex and rare material. The woman then admits she doesn't fully understand, but his proposal sounds like an excellent business opportunity. Hand outstretched, our protagonist prepares to finally lay out his terms for the deal. He requests 500 million won upfront along with 0.005% of the company's shares. The woman lets out a small laugh, saying he seems to have no grasp of the true scale of the Hansung Group. But the young man counters that if the herb is commercialized, Hansung will corner the entire pharmaceutical market. The young woman rejects the offer of shares and asks him to propose another condition for their deal. As he anticipated, he then requests a VIP membership for auctions and for her to craft potions for him as needed. The woman falls silent for a moment, appearing to carefully analyze the new proposal. A shrewd smile spreads across her face. She seems to quite like the new condition he's offered. In exchange for these services, he offers to reveal the weakness of her older brother, Vice President Han Se-jin. The woman is left completely stunned and speechless by our protagonist's audacious proposal. He then asks if she truly wants to take control of the handsome group, no matter the cost. The young man accuses her of being willing to even go against her own family to achieve her goal. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit office, a news report announces the villain Jangin has finally been defeated. A man remarks that if they had acted sooner, they could have certainly stopped the villain. With a furious look, another man with red hair slams his fist on the table with all his might. He shouts that they absolutely could have stopped the monster but were forbidden from acting. The first man urges Baek-kang to calm down, explaining it was a direct order from Oim, not to intervene. Head bowed, he explains that helping a main would have only put them in grave danger. Frustrated with the situation, Baek-kang wonders how much longer they'll have to remain in hiding. A look of pure hatred in his eyes, he vows to eliminate the Kim Jinwoo who ruined their plans. The man then asks if he's certain, as the young man appeared to be close to his client. But Baek-kang dismisses the concern, a wicked smile on his face. He seems very confident. In front of a large building, Han Se-jin waits for her brother, who arrives flanked by his bodyguards. The man thinks to himself that his client would cut down his own family with a smile if necessary. With a fake smile, the young woman waves to her brother, the vice president of the Hansen Group. He greets her in return, and the two appear happy to be reuniting after so long. Inside a limousine, the brother asks how work at the company is going, and the young woman meets his gaze. She replies that the work is challenging and that dealing with people is quite draining for her. With a weary sigh, the young woman admits she's feeling a bit mentally exhausted by it all. Her brother comments that their father was a bit rash in giving her shares at such a young age. He then offers to take over her shares, promising her the vice president position when he becomes chairman. With a look of scorn, the young woman clutches her phone tightly and tells him not to make her laugh. Back in his room, our protagonist saves Sayan's contact information in his phone with a smile. He figures using two separate identities should be safe enough, and that meeting Sayan was the right move. Celebrating his plan's success, he toasts with a can of beer, pleased with the outcome. He then remembers that in exchange for the information, he promised to reveal her brother's weakness. The young man wonders if she's already verifying the information, knowing the Hansing family is powerful. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with a new message, and he's surprised by what he sees. Sayan messages him, saying she will be his courier for a month and accepts the deal. With this, the system announces she now trusts him, and the young man earns another 1,000 points as a reward. He then asks her to brew some potions and secure a ticket to the underground fighting arena. Our hero believes that by acting as Kim Jinwoo, he will draw the attention of the main monsters to himself. With the points he's earned, he decides to purchase a new trait to protect himself from potential attacks. He finds the sense of killing intent trait, which detects hostile intentions within a 500-meter radius. The item costs a steep 50,000 points, but he decides it's a necessary purchase. With a sigh, he pays the price for his survival and finally buys the new ability from the system. A few days later, he receives the potions he commissioned, and Sayan appears to deliver them. She informs him they were made with the sacred herb, and that the side effects have also been amplified. The young man reads the description. The potion boosts mana recovery but causes exhaustion afterward. With a suspicious glance, the woman wonders why such a capable mage would desire a potion like this. She also wonders how he knows about her brother, but the young man just meets her gaze in silence. The woman then reveals she investigated her brother's weakness, and the discovery was shocking. She says he always seemed a bit suspicious, but she never imagined the truth would be so dire. The young woman recounts that her brother has eliminated people and is in contact with a suspected main. Shocked by this revelation, she wonders how on earth our protagonist uncovered all of that. He thinks to himself that he knows everything thanks to the original novel, but he can't simply tell her that. In the story, Han Se-jin is a greedy character who allies with the mains and becomes a major villain. With a smirk, he tells her he'll explain if she gives him 5% of the company's shares. Annoyed by his response, the woman retorts that he should just say he doesn't want to tell her. She then asks about the arena ticket, and he notices two men waiting outside. The young woman explains she secured the ticket, but it's non-transferable, meaning he'll have to go with her. He realizes that's why she's dressed up, and the woman blames him for the situation. She then asks what he plans to do there, and the young man says he needs to multiply the money he's won. The woman falls silent for a moment, trying to process what he meant by that answer. Stunned, she asks if he intends to spend all the money she gave him on bets in the arena. He confirms her suspicion, and the young woman calls him crazy for attempting something so risky. The woman then declares their deal is off, and the system informs him that she is deeply disappointed in him. Our protagonist thinks it doesn't matter, as he has a plan to turn this entire situation around. With a confident smile, he picks up a rabbit mask and prepares for his next move. He dons the mask, thinking that by the time he leaves the arena, he'll have earned even more of her trust. In front of the arena, two masked guards stand at the entrance with an intimidating presence. Our protagonist and Sayan are greeted by a masked man who appears to be in charge. The man places a VIP wristband on his wrist, identifying him as a special member. The guard remarks that it's been a while since they've had a VIP member at this venue. But suddenly, our hero is shocked to see a familiar figure approaching down the corridor. A man wearing a red demon mask walks toward him with an air of superiority. It was Harayan, the S-rank villain and one of the most formidable monsters in the entire novel. With a serious look, he thinks he expected to find him here, as he's the host of the arena. The villain then welcomes them and encourages them to enjoy their time at the combat arena. He then turns and walks away, leaving our protagonist behind with a sense of relief. The young man thinks he must be careful not to get entangled with that man under any circumstances. Arriving in the main area, they see numerous screens and a large crowd gather for the fights. The place is filled with masked individuals, and an electric atmosphere of excitement permeates the air. Cyan explains that all the buzz is for a fighter named Yang Hongju, who is quite famous. Our protagonist is confused, and the woman clarifies that he is the most popular fighter at the moment. He's been the champion for 3 years and, in terms of combat skill, is essentially an A rank. Because of this, the young woman says it's impossible to make much money off him, as everyone will bet on his victory. She then adds that to make real money, he'll need to do something incredibly risky. Our hero approaches a betting clerk and states he'd like to place a large wager on the fight. With a confident look, he reveals he's betting 530 million all at once. And to everyone's astonishment, he declares he's putting all the money on the great champion's opponent. The clerk is completely taken aback by the audacious bet and can't believe what he's just heard. Cyan asks if he's certain, since he knows nothing about the champion's opponent. She then reveals the opponent is a rookie making his debut in the arena tonight. In his office, Harayan learns that someone has bet 530 million on the opponent. He asks for the person's identity, and the clerk says that from what he heard, the man was wearing a rabbit mask. The villain recalls the VIP member he saw earlier and assumes he's just a wealthy individual with eccentric tastes. He figures that for someone like that, the amount must be mere pocket change and doesn't give the bet much thought. Suddenly, a man bursts into the room, shouting that the infamous Kim Jinwoo has appeared in the underground arena. He leaps to his feet, furious at the news, unable to believe the young man is at his event. The man informs him that he arrived with Han Cyan, and the villain flashes a wicked smile at this information. He says he was frustrated by the lack of information on the young man, and that now he has an opportunity. A look of pure malice on his face, he orders them to prepare the car, declaring that tonight they will avenge Jang Han. Meanwhile, in the arena, the champion's opponent is brutally beaten and is begging for his life. On his knees, the man surrenders, pleading with the champion to spare him and let him live another day. The champion scoffs at him for giving up so easily and finishes him with a single, powerful blow. With the victory, the announcer declares the winner of the first match, and the crowd goes wild. The champion raises his arm to celebrate his victory, and the audience applauds him enthusiastically. Two men drag the defeated fighter from the arena as the crowd begins to boo him. They call him trash and shout that they bet on him, and he should have fought to the end. Cyan remarks that the underground arena is merciless to losers and expresses pity for the young man. Our protagonist counters that the host wouldn't allow anyone to be truly finished in this place. They then prepare for the next fight, and the crowd's excitement intensifies. The big screen displays the two fighters, and the betting odds 530 million on the rookie versus 2.8 billion on the champion. The announcer declares that the fight between Liang and Yang Hongju is about to begin. Our hero thinks that while everyone else played it safe and bet on the champion, he has a different strategy. Some people in the audience call him an idiot for betting so much on an unknown rookie. But he just smiles, thinking that if all goes according to plan, he'll walk away with 6 times his initial bet. And finally, the great champion Yang Hongju enters the arena with an air of utter superiority. The announcer introduces the fighters, and a wave of excitement washes over the arena. Cyan is shocked when she sees the opponent, wondering if that person is really the so-called Liang. With a smirk, the young man comments that the fighter is much thinner than he'd expected. He then reveals that he's not here just for the money, he has other motives for his bet. The young man knows that Liang is destined to join a group of villains called Jain in the story. That's why he wanted to see him fight at least once. Suddenly, the fighter's gaze meets his. Our protagonist calms himself, thinking there's no need to panic, as everything is written in the novel. He knows that Liang has never lost a single fight in the arena, which makes him confident. The champion glares at him with contempt, saying he can't believe he has to fight someone like this. With a roar, he charges at the rookie, declaring he'll end this as quickly as possible. The champion throws a powerful punch, but Liang evades it with incredible speed. With a surprised look, the rookie effortlessly dodges the champion's attack. The champion tries to land a punch, but the young man catches his fist and forcefully throws him across the arena. The man is hurled to the other side of the arena, and a massive shockwave ripples through the area. With the champion down, our protagonist begins to celebrate his fighter's comeback. The crowd erupts the sight, and Cyan wonders if the rookie might actually win. Outside, Baek Kang and his cronies arrive by car, preparing to storm the venue. With a serious look, he considers the underground arena, knowing he must proceed with extreme caution. He says he wants to invade the place but is aware that if he disrupts Harayang's event, he won't leave alive. The driver informs him the event concludes at 10:30, and the villain says there's no need to rush. A wicked smile on his face, he thinks the timing is perfect for him to finally exact his revenge. Back in the arena, Liang is struck by a powerful wave of energy and appears to be in trouble. The champion presses forward, delivering a flurry of punches with bluish mana enveloping his fists. The blows land squarely on the rookie, slamming him into the arena wall with great force. The champion then leaps into the air, delivering a final blow to end the fight once and for all. With a mighty kick, he sends him flying, telling him to know his place and just disappear. The rookie is thrown violently and crashes to the arena floor, utterly defeated and without a chance. With his opponent down, the champion turns to the crowd, preparing to celebrate his victory. The crowd chants the champion's name in unison, and our protagonist can't believe what he's seeing. Stunned by the defeat, he wonders if it's possible the great champion actually won the fight. With a smug grin, Yang Hongju faces the crowd and declares himself the grand victor of the match. But suddenly, a dagger sinks into the champion's chest, and the rookie rises with a murderous expression. The man can't believe what's happened and stares down at the wound in his chest, completely shocked. With a malevolent smile, Liang prepares to continue his assault with all his might. The champion tries to flee, but the rookie attacks him with his sharp claws, giving him no chance to defend. Enraged, the champion charges at him, screaming, "You scoundrel," with a look of pure fury. The rookie then reveals his claws, and a purple aura envelops him, showcasing his true power. With a swift movement, he launches his claws toward the champion at incredible speed. The claws strike the man head-on, defeating him once and for all with a brutal blow. The champion is stunned to be defeated and collapses to the floor, unable to process what just happened. With the rookie's victory, the champion's body is pierced by multiple claws, leaving him motionless on the ground. The entire arena falls silent for a moment, everyone shocked by the unexpected outcome. The audience is left gaping, unable to believe the great champion was defeated so easily. People begin to panic, and Cyan can't believe the champion has truly lost. Stunned by the scene, the woman stares at the arena, trying to process the result of the insane fight. The audience erupts in panic, shouting angrily about having lost all their money. With a sigh of relief, our protagonist says his business here is concluded and prepares to leave. Cyan follows him, and the two exit the arena as the crowd continues its chaotic uproar. From his private box, Harayang thinks that to call this a coincidence would be far too convenient. He knows the rookie only won because the champion was careless and didn't take him seriously. But he looks at the big screen, thinking that bet had a very clear intention behind it. Harayang then summons his manager, asking him to investigate the man who won today's bet. He orders his subordinate to find out everything about the young man, as we see him driving away with Cyan. Inside the car, the woman asks how he knew the rookie would win, and he simply says it was intuition. She complains that he never gives a straight answer, and our protagonist just smiles at the situation. Checking his phone, he celebrates a successful day, having won a substantial amount of money from the bet. His bank balance now exceeds 3 billion won, and he is thrilled with the result. For this, he earns the Gambler of the Century achievement, and the system notes that Cyan now trusts him. The woman's curiosity about him grows, and her interest level in the young man finally rises to level 1. Our hero celebrates earning 7,000 points from the interest milestone, noting he's recouping his expenses. Suddenly, his new detection ability activates and he senses a powerful killing intent. In shock, he realizes someone with malicious intent is nearby and braces for danger. He considers a group that might be after him, recalling a revenge plotline from the story. Cyan notices his tense expression and asks what's wrong. With an uneasy smile, the young man turns to her and says he has one more favor to ask. The scene then cuts to Baek Kang's car, which is pursuing our protagonist with a thirst for vengeance. The driver reports that their target's movements have changed and asks for new orders. With a wicked smile, the villain tells the driver to stop the car, saying they'll finish him right here. Our hero stops in an open field, and Baek Kang observes him from a distance, ready to strike. He notices Cyan is gone and wonders if this young man is truly the one who defeated Jang Han. He observes that his body isn't trained, and that he doesn't seem as formidable as the news suggested. The villain then senses that the energy he emits is weak and underestimates him because of it. Our protagonist then drinks one of his potions and tosses the empty vial to the ground with a serious look. The potion tastes awful, but he calls out for his enemy to come out of hiding and fight. The potion boosts his mana recovery by 500% for 10 minutes, followed by exhaustion. With his mana amplified, he turns to the villain, stating he already knew he was being watched. Baek Kang is surprised by the sudden shift in his aura, but still doesn't find it threatening. Taking a step forward, he approaches, remarking that the young man's display of power is impressive. He then conjures 3 fire spears, noting the young man was clever to have sensed his presence. With a shout, the villain hurls the fiery weapons toward our hero with all his might. But the young man creates a blue mana sphere and prepares to counter the attack with everything he has. His attack collides with one of the spears, causing a massive explosion of bluish light in the air. The other 2 spears fly past, and our protagonist narrowly dodges the blow. With a smirk, the villain says he still has 2 shots left and prepares to attack again. In shock, our hero can't believe the enemy has more attacks like that at his disposal. And in the distance, Cyan sees the explosion and, with a serious expression, realizes the fight has finally started. She slams on the accelerator, driving at high speed to get there as quickly as possible. Our protagonist notices her expression, and the woman says she thinks someone is following them. Shocked by the situation, she wonders who could possibly be a rival of the mighty Hansung group. The young man then grabs his potions and asks her to drive to a more isolated, safer location. With a determined look, he says he needs to catch the enemy and prepares for the final showdown. The woman asks if he can actually fight the enemy, and the young man admits it won't be easy. She is then shocked, stating the enemy's man exceeds B rank and asks if he's sure about this. With a nervous smile, he replies that's precisely why he's asking for her help now. Hearing his plan, the car then screeches to a halt on a much more isolated stretch of road. With a serious look, the young woman says she will trust in his abilities and tells him to come back alive. And so, our hero finds himself facing the powerful fire spears the villain has prepared. A confident smile on his face, the young man simply says, "This is absolutely nothing." He then recalls that he was an enhancement type until his first year at the Magic Academy. Seeing the dodge, the villain gives a small smirk and asks if that's all he can do. The enemy then conjures even more fire spears, preparing for a much stronger assault. With a battle cry, the villain unleashes a barrage of attacks toward our protagonist. In shock, our hero realizes his opponent has gotten even faster than before. Using all his speed, he manages to weave through villain's powerful barrage of fire attacks. The enemy clicks his tongue in annoyance, frustrated that he can't land a single hit on the young man. Our protagonist thinks he has less than 2 minutes of the effect left, and that it's time to make his move. With that, he gathers his mana, declaring it's time to finally end this fight. A system screen then appears before him, activating the effect called Herd of Great Nature. The system explains that for 1 minute, his mana recovery will increase by 1000%. Witnessing the sudden change, the villain is completely stunned and wonders what's happening. He then realizes the young man's aura has grown immensely stronger, and our hero prepares to engage. The villain is shocked to see our protagonist moving with simply unbelievable speed. He senses the danger and creates more fire spears, thinking he needs to block the incoming attack. Our hero then charges, colliding with the enemy's fire spears in an explosion of power. Using the distraction, the young man closes the distance, and the villain grunts, surprised by his approach. With no time to think, the enemy uses one of his spears as a staff to defend against the blow. The villain then attacks with an arc of fire, and our protagonist prepares a powerful counter. With a serious look, the young man concentrates a large amount of bluish mana in the palm of his hand. He then unleashes a powerful blast of energy that strikes the villain head-on with full force. The enemy screams in pain upon being hit, and his fire spear clatters to the ground from the impact. Our hero thinks he can't give him any openings and decides to press the attack while he can. With that, he launches several mana spheres that hit the villain squarely, making him cry out in pain. The enemy clutches his head, screaming in agony from the mental assault he's now under. Our protagonist realizes that from this angle, he can't target the villain's brain to finish him. But suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him, and he seems to have a new plan of attack. In a swift motion, he gets close to the enemy and touches his head with a very serious look. The villain is shocked by his proximity, and our hero declares that from this point on, everything changes. He then grabs the enemy's neck tightly, and the villain begs him to stop the attack. But with a cold, determined gaze, our protagonist simply states that the fight is finally over. With that, he releases a powerful wave of blue energy that hits the villain squarely at point-blank range. The enemy is stunned by the attack, unable to believe he's being defeated in this manner. The screen explains the potion boosts mana by 500% but causes exhaustion afterward. Suddenly, the effect wears off, and with his arm injured, the protagonist complains about the terrible timing. As his body heals, the villain recovers from the attack and smoke rises from his wounded chest. The enemy then retrieves his fire spear and prepares to finally retaliate. A look of pure hatred on his face, the villain glares at our hero, ready to end it all at once. He then raises the weapon with a malevolent smile, shouting that he will finally finish the young man. But suddenly, a blur appears at high speed, defending our protagonist from the blow. And to everyone's surprise, the mage Jang Sugi appears, parrying the villain's attack with his sword. Seeing that help has arrived, our young man breathes a sigh of relief for getting out of that predicament. With a smile, he turns to the newcomer and says, "You finally showed up." It was Jang Sugi, an S-rank mage and the formidable sword of the Hansung family from the story. With a single swing of his sword, the mage defeats the villain and splatters fly everywhere. Our protagonist thinks, that's the sword demon, one of the strongest in the novel. He's shocked as the mage defeated Baek Kang, who is fighting at a rank level, with just one strike. Annoyed, the mage mutters that a mere main dared to lay a hand on the youngest daughter of the Hansung family. At that moment, Han Sayan comes running, calling our protagonist by his alias. She asks if he's alright, and the young man says it was worth stalling until help arrived. With a smile, the young woman says her life was on the line too, which is why she called the strongest. The mage then cleans his sword with a serious and imposing air without uttering a single word. The system announces the villain's demise and that he has gained 1,000 points in Cyan's trust. Looking at the system screen, our protagonist finds the outcome quite satisfactory. The mage then asks Cyan if they should report the incident to the chairman. He adds that an attack by a main is too serious a matter to be ignored. But the young woman suggests they don't, and the young man agrees with her decision. He explains that if the news gets out, it will cause an uproar, and there's no need to deviate from the original story. With a thoughtful look, the young woman concurs, understanding that he's right about that. She then says that if this leaks, it will only create problems, so it's best to keep it under wraps. At this, the mage agrees with the young woman's decision, accepting the order from his immediate superior. 3 days later, our protagonist is lying in bed, leisurely scrolling through his phone. As a token of gratitude, Cyan offered information, and he requested the release date of the potions. A news report shows that Hansung is launching a potion with Sacred Herb with Cyan as the highlight. Looking at his phone, he thinks he invested everything he had and bought 4,360 shares. The clock reads 8:59, and he thinks that in just one more minute, everything will change. And then, at 9 in the morning, the market finally opens, and the reflection in his eyes shows the stock soaring. As the market opens, the company's shares skyrocket, and our hero becomes rich instantly. Overjoyed, the young man shouts with happiness at the result of his brilliant investment. He then remembers that before regressing, a lifetime of dungeon crawling wouldn't have even bought him a house. Lying in bed, the young man thinks he never imagined making money could be this easy. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with a new notification, catching him by surprise. Cyan is inviting him to lunch, saying she has a gift for him as a thank you. The young man is surprised by the message and wonders what kind of gift the young woman could have for him. The next day, he heads to Cafe Velour to finally meet his new business partner. Already seated at a table, Cyan greets him, remarking that he's a bit early. With a smile, our hero approaches and says arriving early is a habit of his. She mentions the shares have risen significantly and asks if he made around 500 million in profit. The young man replies that he made 3 billion in a single day, and the young woman tells him to accept her gift. With a smile, he thanks the director and asks about the gift she mentioned. With a serious look, she reveals she's discovered the identity of the monster that attacked them days ago. The young woman explains his name was Baek Kang, and he was a notorious contract assassin. But she also found out that someone was frequently dealing directly with the villain. And to everyone's surprise, the person behind it all was her older brother, Han Se-jin. Our hero thinks that he already knew about the alliance, but not that Baek Kang was one of his associates. He says it's interesting, but it's not a gift if it doesn't benefit him, which annoys the young woman. She then hands him a black box, saying that this is the real gift. The protagonist takes the gift, and the young woman says she'll be busy for a while, which makes him concerned. She explains that since her brother is connected to the villain, it's quite obvious who is behind the attack. With a determined expression, the young woman states she can't stand being indebted to anyone, whether for a favor or a grudge. With that, she turns and begins to leave, leaving our hero behind with the gift in his hand. The young man thinks that her assumption about her brother being the mastermind is actually a huge misunderstanding. But he knows that the fact that Han Se-jin is a villain remains unchanged, and he will continue to be an obstacle for Cyan. With this in mind, he thinks that taking down Han Se-jin through Cyan isn't such a bad idea after all. Suddenly, the woman calls him by his alias, and the young man is startled by her voice. With a smile, she hopes he likes the gift as she hand-picked it herself. Our protagonist holds the gift box with a white ribbon, and a glow emanates from within. With a smirk, the young man then thanks the woman for the gift she gave him. Upon opening the box, he finds a B-rank mana bracelet with SS-level durability. A satisfied smile on his face, our hero is very pleased with the new item he's received. Sitting at the table, a system screen appears, and he stares at it with a very serious expression. The young man is then confused by the notification that has suddenly popped up in front of him. The system reports that Arayang is curious about him, earning the young man 1,500 points. The scene then shifts to the villain's office, where he's reading some documents with a very serious look. The man is alone in his office, seemingly analyzing some very important information. Suddenly, a subordinate enters the room and greets him with a deep, respectful bow. The villain remarks it's been nearly 10 years and asks if this is about the Council of 10 Demons. The man confirms but says he must ask something else before he begins. He reminds his boss that his comrades Jang Han and Baek Kang were defeated just days ago, and coincidentally a human mage was involved in both incidents. He explains that according to Baek Kang, this same man visited the combat arena a short while ago. The subordinate then asks if his boss has by any chance ever heard the name Kim Jin-woo. The villain then recalls the young man in the rabbit mask who placed a bet at the arena days ago. And he finally remembers that was the VIP bet on the rookie, Lang Lang. The subordinate swears that if he's given information, he will avenge his fallen friends. Suddenly, the villain unleashes a purple aura and reprimands the man, who drops to his knees in fear. With a furious gaze, the boss warns him to prepare for the consequences if he touches his client. The man apologizes and begs for forgiveness, swearing he will no longer pursue our protagonist. The villain then tells him to simply deliver the message from the Council of 10 Demons and nothing more. The man reports that a prophecy has emerged from the sacred relic known as the Prophet's Altar, and the prophecy foretells that the child destined to destroy the mains will awaken at the age of 18. The boss is irritated, realizing this is why the king has been causing trouble again lately. The subordinate explains that according to the altar, the 18-year-old child of prophecy is currently at the academy. The scene then transitions to the Grand Magic Academy building on a bright, peaceful day. Back in his room, our protagonist silently observes the scenery, lost in thought. With the bracelet and the scroll on his desk, he decides to continue operating as Kim Jin-woo for the time being. He receives another 1,500 points and thinks it's not yet time to get involved with the villain. Holding the scroll, he says there's something more important to focus on right now. He then unfurls the scroll, which glows with a strong bluish light as he prepares to use it. The screen explains the item is a magic book that casts a barrier capable of blocking one spell. With the item in hand, he reflects that the Academy's midterm exams are fast approaching. This event is where students showcase their abilities in front of very important individuals. And it's a key event for Lee Seojin's future, but it holds even greater significance for another reason. It's because of the child of prophecy, Lee Seojin's future ally, who is born with the power to destroy the mains. To find this yet unawakened child, the monsters known as mains will infiltrate the school. The invasion is set for 4 in the afternoon and will cause widespread panic among the Academy's students. But in the end, all the monsters are completely annihilated by the hero Lee Seojin, just like in the original story. He thinks that this time, he will keep an eye not only on Seojin but also on the child of prophecy. An instructor gathers the students, announcing that besides next week's exams, he has one more notice. The students groan that the exams are already enough, and one even cheekily asks about the master's first love. The master chuckles, saying he hears that every year, then adds with a serious tone that training is real combat. He then announces that to prepare for the exams, the second-year students will have free combat classes. The young hero Lee Seojin looks slightly confused by the instructor's announcement of free combat. The instructor dismisses them, saying that those without a partner can either observe or practice alone. With a determined look, Yuara prepares for combat as Lee Seojin watches her from a distance. Our young man thinks that the two of them will spar together, as they did in the original, glad that he recruited him first. But even with all his careful planning, something still seems to be troubling our protagonist. He then realizes that no one has asked him to be their partner, and he's standing completely alone. The young man muses that it doesn't matter how skilled he is at theory or barrier breaking at the academy. After all, no one wants to team up with the last ranked student in the class. The reason is painfully obvious. With a serious expression, he tells himself it doesn't matter, as his partner has already been decided. And then Yoon Hae-young, the girl from his dungeon team, approaches him with a serious look. Suddenly, a student is sent flying by a powerful fire attack, crying out from the impact. The young man rolls across the combat arena floor to evade the fire attack. With a few scrapes on his face, the young hero remarks that he narrowly avoided a bad hit. Yuara taunts him, saying that with skills like those, she's gonna claim his #1 spot. A glint in his eye, Lee Seojin tells her not to get ahead of herself. He then prepares to counter, saying he hasn't even finished warming up yet. In a flash, he advances and delivers a strike that unleashes a wave of golden energy. Elsewhere, a girl observes their fight from a distance with a very attentive gaze. She then turns to the window, seemingly lost in thought about the ongoing combat. The girl comments on the two, noting they are the first and second ranked students in the entire school. With a serious look, she conjures some ice crystals in the palm of her hand with her magic. The young woman thinks that the more she compares herself to geniuses, the smaller she feels, and that she needs to stop. 2 students are gossiping about her, mentioning she is 82nd in the overall rankings. One remarks that while her theory is excellent, her practical skills are weak and she struggles in combat. His friend adds that it's a shame her intelligence can't keep pace with her talent. The young woman then falls silent for a moment, appearing quite saddened by the situation. With a determined look, she launches several ice crystals toward a training dummy. The crystals strike the target head-on, shattering into numerous pieces upon impact. With a sigh of frustration, the young woman looks at the result of her attack, clearly unsatisfied. Annoyed, the young woman wonders why nothing seems to work, no matter how hard she tries to improve. Suddenly, a voice says, "Your ice construct is fragile," and the girl whirls around surprised. The girl turns and recognizes him as Kim Sun-woo, who is standing there in the doorway. He then approaches, remarking that her ice isn't even that cold and her precision is terrible. With that, he concludes that, overall, the young woman's fundamentals are very weak and need work. The young man thinks to himself that he's just taking responsibility for his actions with the team. He recalls that in the dungeon, Seojin's advice would have helped her grow and become stronger. But because he interfered, the girl missed that opportunity and her power has stagnated. So he tells her that if she sticks with him, he'll ensure she can fend for herself in the future. The girl then points at him, declaring she finally understands what's going on. She accuses him of tearing down someone's confidence just to make them follow him blindly. With a smirk, our protagonist simply agrees, saying, "Maybe so." He then asks if she's getting angry because she can't refute his points. With that, the young man steps closer to her with an intimidating look, making her feel flustered. He says he thought she was decent in the dungeon, but he was completely mistaken about her. Our hero thinks that perhaps he went too far and prepares to apologize. But the young woman challenges him to a duel, wanting to see how skilled the last, ranked student really is. A victorious smile spreads across his face. He thinks, "I've got her hooked," and accepts her challenge. The young man is thrilled that his plan to train her has succeeded, and the fight is about to begin. With that, he takes his position in the combat arena, surrounded by the girl's ice spikes. The young woman then shouts, "Begin," and prepares to unleash her ice magic with full force. Our protagonist activates his own magic, and a bluish aura envelops his legs. With enhanced speed, he darts across the combat arena, dodging every ice spike she launches. He notes that as soon as she got serious, the intensity of her materialization changed dramatically. Dashing away from the attacks, the young man compliments the girl but adds that her attack pattern is still too simple. Annoyed by his comment, the young woman asks if he'd like to see a different kind of magical attack pattern. She then conjures a massive ice spear and prepares to attack our protagonist with everything she has. Seeing the weapon, our hero is slightly taken aback by the size and power of the new attack. The spear then hurtles forward at high speed, and he readies his magic to evade the blow. With a leap, he manages to dodge the attack, and a huge explosion of ice erupts from the ground. Shocked, the girl can't believe she finally executed a move she'd been unable to do before. The young man lands far away, and the young woman just stares at the massive ice crystal she created. Our protagonist then lands atop the ice, a very serious and determined look on his face. He then explains that for a person to unlock their ability, they require the right kind of stimulus. With a smirk, he thinks that provoking her was the correct solution to her problem. The girl stares at him with a confused look, wondering how he managed to draw that out of her. She then asks how he plans to win by just running away, and if he even wants to be her partner. He explains that inexperienced manifestation mages all share one thing in common. With a swift movement, he launches a mana sphere, and the young woman prepares to counter the blow. He then says that once he's in close range, suppressing magic becomes much easier. With that, he grabs her hands and begins to suppress the young woman's mana with his superior power. The girl cries out in pain as she is thrown back by her protagonist's mana attack. The girl is stunned by the mana sphere before her, unable to believe his power. With the fight concluded, our protagonist dispels his magic and looks at her with a calm expression. He then gives a small nod and a smile, saying that was an excellent fight for both of them. The young Yoon Hae-young is embarrassed by her defeat and just stares at the young man, at a loss for words. Lying on the ground, she finally concedes defeat, and our hero approaches to speak with her. The young woman then admits that perhaps she really does need his help to learn how to use her magic. He extends a hand, explaining that she simply didn't know how to unleash her true talent. With a smile, the young man offers to help her and asks if she wants to train with him. The girl is surprised by the offer and asks if he will really help her unlock her talent. With that, the two seal their agreement with a handshake, and their new partnership officially begins. She then calls him teacher, and asks him to guide her well from now on. The system announces that her interest has increased, and her favorability is now at level 1. He then informs her that from now on, she will undergo magical attribute adaptation training. With that, he hands her a small ice crystal, explaining that all magic begins from this. The young man explains that adaptation is about understanding the attribute, which determines one's manifestation ability. He adds that without the fundamentals, her ability will never improve, no matter how much she trains. The young woman says she knows what adaptation training is, but she's never heard of this particular method. Suddenly, he fills the room with countless ice crystals, leaving the girl stunned by the sight. A wicked smile on his face, he says feeling it with your body is the easiest way, and that the ice is melting. The scene then shifts to show several students being attacked by a dark, malevolent energy. A man asks if everyone is assembled, and a subordinate confirms, Wes, Sir Chien Hei. The henchmen report they have gathered the active demons around the Magic Academy as ordered. The boss declares that the time to find the child of prophecy and invade the school is next week. He explains that according to their inside source, security becomes more lenient during the academy's exams. One of the henchmen celebrates that the time has finally come, but another raises a concern. He reveals that their request for aid from Lord Harayong failed as he refused their proposal. The woman despairs, saying it's impossible to eliminate the child of prophecy with only 4 demons. The man calls her a fool, stating that lack security isn't the only thing they have on their side. He explains that scouts from numerous guilds will be at the school, and she can't handle them all. The boss agrees this is true, but says the story changes if they can trap anyone who tries to interfere. With that, he creates a sphere of purple energy, preparing to use a powerful spell. The man then casts a spell which envelopes all of them in a large dome of purple energy. His henchmen look at him smiling, as the boss informs them this is the Great Demon Barrier. With a wicked smile, he tells them they can go all out, because he'll be right there with them. The young Yoon Hae-young begins her training, creating several ice cubes with her elemental magic. With a flick of her wrist, she then transforms one of the cubes into a beautiful snowflake. Suddenly, the young woman is startled as she unintentionally creates a massive ice spear. Head bowed, the girl is embarrassed by the unexpected result of her training session. But with a smile of victory, she celebrates that she finally managed to do it on her own. Spear in hand, she turns to her master, celebrating that she created the weapon with her own power. With a smile, he tells her she has talent and has improved remarkably in just a few days of training. The system reports that she trusts him, earning the young man 1,500 points as a reward. He then asks if the training is bearable for her, and the young woman seems quite enthusiastic. A blush on her cheeks, she asks him to add even more ice so she can continue her training. He thinks to himself that while she says that, the training must be quite painful for the girl. Wearing a shirt with "Twice" written on it, he thinks she needs to endure a little longer to grow. He then dumps another bucket of ice into the water, and the girl shivers from the frigid temperature. Arms crossed, the young woman shivers from the cold, grumbling at the pain of the intense training. From a distance, Seo Yuna observes the scene, wondering what on earth the two of them are doing. Shocked by the sight, the girl wonders if this is some form of bullying between the two. She then panics, thinking she must report the bullying to the teachers immediately. A female teacher then remarks that watching talented students grow is always a beautiful sight. The girl calls out to her and points toward the upperclassmen, but the teacher says she's already aware of the training. Stunned by this response, the young woman can't believe this is considered actual training at the academy. The teacher explains that the improvement in Haeyoung's mana control has been quite impressive, but she adds that what surprised her most was the quick judgment of the student guiding her. The girl asks if it was Kim Seon-woo, and the teacher is surprised she already knows of him. Flustered by the comment, the young woman shakes her head, feeling a bit irritated by the situation. The teacher says he has great potential, so it would be wise to remember his name. But she worries that, in the end, results are what matter, and he needs to improve. The teacher then looks at the young woman with a serious, contemplative expression. She then suggests giving the young man an opportunity to prove his abilities for all to see. With a smile, the instructor tells them to eagerly await the midterm exams. Our protagonist then panics, thinking he's completely in trouble with this situation. A system screen informs him that a spatial pocket is available at a limited-time discount in the shop. The item is extremely valuable, allowing the user to summon items anytime, anywhere. The item is priced at 20,000 with a 50% discount, but he only has 8,500 points. Desperate, the young man starts to cry, lamenting that discounts only appear when he's short on points. With a determined look, he calculates he needs 11,500 points in just 5 days. Suddenly, a notification appears on his phone, and he is surprised by the message he's received. It was his teacher, summoning him to the teacher's lounge before class for a discussion. Arriving there, he finds Yuera and Park In-won and is completely confused about what's happening. The teacher informs them that the three have been selected for the second year's special manifestation class. He thinks that since Lee Seojin was in the enhancement class, he can now interact with him more. But Park In-won stands up, objecting to Kim Seon-woo's inclusion in the special class. Annoyed, the young man confronts him, stating he's 5th in the year and that it's unfair to be grouped with the last ranked student. He then appeals to Yuera for support, but she simply ignores him, refusing to get involved. With a cold look, the girl says it doesn't matter who joins and that he should mind his own business. The young man is flustered by her response and grumbles that's why she doesn't have any friends. The teacher then turns to our hero and asks for his thoughts on his classmate's complaint. With a confident smile, he replies that if rank is the issue, then they just need to raise it. The teacher agrees, telling him to prove himself in the midterm exams to earn his spot in the class. With a massive crowd in the arena, the teacher specifies he needs to achieve a rank of 80 or higher. He and his partner walk together, and the young man thinks that if all goes well, the mission is achievable. The second year exam is a cooperative one, requiring students to fight in pairs against monsters. The students face summoned monsters known as the Green Giants of the Forest. Their weak point is a purple crystal on their body, which, if struck, defeats them instantly. However, the crystal's location changes each time, making it very difficult to identify. Most students earn good scores simply by surviving, but the geniuses operate on a different level. The most powerful students can actually defeat all the monsters with their abilities. The scouts are impressed with Lee Seojin, commenting on his synergy magic. Wearing his climbing shoes, our protagonist prepares to ascend to the higher ranks. He and his partner get ready for the fight, and the young man tells them to go all out. He then asks the girl to clear a path for him, and the young woman freezes the arena floor. With a swift motion, she creates an ice ramp for our protagonist to advance. The young woman then fires off several ice spikes to provide cover for her partner's advance. With the path clear, the young man sprints up the ice ramp at high speed toward the monsters. Other students recognize him as the boy who was humiliated and accuse him of cheating. The system reports that 254 people feel anticipation, earning him 1,000 points. Looking at the screen, he thinks everyone is just waiting for him to embarrass himself again. With his outsider's privilege activated, he can see the giant monster's weak point. He is then able to pinpoint the exact location of the purple crystals on all the monsters in the arena. With his special shoes, he dashes up the ice ramp with impressive speed. With a smile, he says he won't be playing the clown this time and prepares his attack. He then fires a powerful blast of blue mana that strikes the giant monster head on. The attack pierces through the monster's body, defeating it with a single precise and powerful blow. The giant then dissipates into black smoke, and our protagonist turns to his next target. But suddenly, one of the monsters attacks him from behind, catching him completely off guard in combat. With a smile, he remarks that this is all going more easily than he initially imagined. Suddenly, one of the giants begins to scale the arena tower, heading for the spectators. A look of surprise on his face, our protagonist realizes something is very wrong with these monsters. And to his astonishment, he spots the villain Qian Hei controlling the monsters from a distance. With a serious expression, our young man prepares another mana sphere to attack the monster. With that, he launches the attack, which hits the monster's eye squarely but fails to defeat it. The young man thinks that even for being last, he did well, but he wonders about the mastermind. He muses that the mains were only supposed to appear at 4 in the afternoon, and that something has altered the story. Suddenly, his partner yells for him to watch out for the approaching monster. Our protagonist then turns to the side and is shocked by the scene unfolding before him. The giant monster leaps toward him and, with a powerful punch, shatters the ice arena. The impact sends our hero flying, and the arena is littered with ice debris. The girl then conjures 3 ice spears and prepares to attack the monster with all her might. The spears strike the giant head on, piercing it in several places and defeating it instantly. Seeing her partner on the ground, the young woman yells for him to wake up and snap out of it quickly. With that, she helps him to his feet, and the two prepare to face the next monster. The giant then approaches, ready to attack the 2 students with its full strength. With a determined look, our protagonist tells the girl to get out of his way now. Suddenly, a powerful blast of energy strikes the monster's head on, defeating them instantly. The young man then turns to his partner, shielding her with his body from the smoke of the defeated monster. The scouts in the audience are left gaping at the scene, unable to believe what they're seeing. The live stream chat explodes with praise for the young man's skill. One of the scouts remarks that the boy is very good, and his colleagues agree with the assessment. Other spectators comment that they never expected to see a fight of this caliber at the academy. With the victory, the girl embraces him, celebrating that they've finally passed the exam. The system informs him he's earned several achievements and that Park In-hwan feels humiliated. But our hero thinks that the exam isn't what's most important right now, it's the timeline. The clock on the wall then reads noon, and he realizes something is terribly wrong. The villain then appears at the academy, and the young man realizes the timeline has deviated from the original. Seeing the villain and the other students, our hero panics at this change in the story. He then wonders if his own actions are altering the original course of the story he knew. A large screen then shows that he and his partner have secured second place in the midterm exams. The girl asks if he's alright, and the young man says he's just a bit tired from the exam. She then blames herself, thinking she must have made a mistake, but he tells her to have more faith in herself. With a smile, he tells her she was perfect in today's combat, and the girl blushes at the compliment. Her face flushed, she simply says thank you, and our protagonist smiles at her reaction. She then bids him farewell, telling him to rest well and that if he feels sick, he can skip training. With a serious expression, he thinks that now that the timeline is warped, he needs to re-evaluate everything. He walks through the courtyard, thinking that if the plot is still on track, Seojin should be around here. And to his surprise, he spots the young hero surrounded by numerous scouts from prominent guilds. The scouts are making him various offers to join their guilds, complete with many benefits. Several other fans also close in, and the young hero looks flustered by all the attention. With an awkward smile, he explains that he's only 18 and isn't yet eligible to join a guild. But the scouts persist, saying they skip the third-year students' exams just to see him fight. Suddenly, our protagonist appears, and Lee Seojin is surprised to see his classmate. With a smile, he announces that Mr. Jang In-chul is looking for him to discuss his grades. The scouts murmur that he was the last-ranked student in the school, but his performance was very promising. With a smirk, our hero winks at his friend, helping him escape the situation. Lee Seojin is momentarily stunned but quickly catches on to his new friend's plan. With that, he bids everyone farewell and dashes off, saying he can't keep the professor waiting. The scouts then lament how close they were to convincing the young hero to join them. And so, the two friends walk together through the academy courtyard after shaking off the fans. Lee Seojin then suggests to his friend that they should go watch the rest of the third-year exams. Nearby Agent Jeong Hyun asks his senior for his thoughts on the young hero's combat performance. Team leader Kim Deok-hyun replies with a serious air that the young man's performance was not bad at all. He thinks the boy's skills were worthy of President Kim Jin-chul's third disciple. But the leader feels Seojin is still inexperienced, and his colleague notes he's already evaluated him as a full-fledged agent. The younger agent then smiles, saying his only regret is not having spoken to him during the Han River incident. He adds that if Lee Seojin had fought the demon, he would have gained the experience he currently lacks. Thoughtfully, the leader asks what his colleague made of the last-ranked student who appeared, or Kim Seon-woo. The younger agent replies that his combat sense was incredible and that it's hard to believe his ranking. At this, the senior reveals that what our protagonist demonstrated was not merely simple instinct, and that ability to find a target's weakness can only be honed through extensive experience. Shocked by this revelation, the younger agent just stares at his superior, unsure of what to say. The younger one then laughs, asking where an 18-year-old could possibly gain such experience, and the leader concurs. But the younger agent begins to reconsider, remembering something very important. He then recalls that the classmate Seojin mentioned who resembled the mage Jinwoo was Kim San-woo. The leader still finds it odd that an 18-year-old could use compression materialization. With a determined look, the younger agent tells himself he will have to remember that name. Far away, Lee Seojin thanks our hero, saying he was nearly trapped with those scouts forever. The hero asks why he returned to the crowded area, and the young man says he wanted to see next year's exam. He then reassures his friend not to worry, as the scouts used a separate entrance to the stands. Our young man then asks if he doesn't want to remain the top student in the school, and the hero grows thoughtful. With a smile, the protagonist says that if they watch quietly, they won't be noticed, and his friend agrees. And with a shrewd look, he thinks that the demon's attack is set to begin right here, during the third-year exams. He then remembers that this location is perfect for the villains to make contact with their inside informant. With this in mind, he thinks he needs to keep Lee Seojin occupied and find Cheon-hae on his own. The young hero then asks if something happened after the exam, but his friend doesn't understand the question. He clarifies he means the scouts, and the young man says it's fine, as this happens to him all the time. Our protagonist thinks it seems the original plot is still intact, which is a huge relief. With a grand announcement, the third-year exam finally begins, and the crowd in the arena goes wild. Outside, a woman observes the scouts entering the exam hall, confirming the information. With a smile, she thinks that the informant's intel about the location was perfectly accurate. Beside her, the villain Cheon-hae asks about the progress of the rest of the invasion plan. The woman reports that she has hidden monster summoning circles in every corner of the school. And to avoid any issues, she placed the monster Jinsen in an isolated area where no one goes. The villain then praises her for her good work, and the young woman thanks him, attributing it to his guidance. With his plan in motion, the villain rises, preparing to finally launch the major assault. And with a sphere of purple energy, he declares that the hunt for the child of prophecy has officially begun. In the arena, a third-year student launches a powerful golden energy attack at his opponent. The girl cries out in pain as she is struck squarely by her adversary's magical attack in the exam. With no chance of winning, the young woman surrenders, and the fight ends with the third-year young man's victory. With that, the announcer declares that Park Min, he has lost the fight by forfeit. And the grand winner of the exam is finally announced to the entire crowd in the arena. The victor is Kim Chang-hyun from the third year, who stares at everyone with a very serious expression. Lee Seojin is thrilled with the fight, saying the third-year exam is very entertaining. He remarks that Kim Chang-hyun's magic was a perfect example of manifestation, and our young man agrees. But he thinks to himself that he's been scanning for Cheon-hae everywhere and can't find him. The young hero then notices his friend's distraction and asks who he's searching for in the crowd. Embarrassed, the protagonist claims he was just checking if any guilds were scouting him there. Lee Seojin then compliments his friend, saying he's grown a lot since the start of the semester at the academy. He continues his praise, asking what kind of training he's been doing, but stops mid-sentence. Suddenly, our protagonist senses something strange and loses focus on what his friend is saying. And to everyone's astonishment, a massive purple energy barrier begins to form over the arena. The barrier then seals completely, trapping all the students and scouts inside the academy. Shocked by the sight, he thinks that this didn't happen in his past life and that something has changed the story. One of the scouts then tries to punch the barrier but fails to even scratch it. People start to panic, questioning why there's a barrier and calling for the teachers. Outside, people are equally confused, wondering if there's been an accident at the academy. Near the villains, a mysterious bag is left behind as part of their invasion plan. The bag then opens on its own, revealing several magic crystals that glow with a bluish energy. With this, a portal opens and numerous monsters begin to stream out, ready to attack everyone. From within the portal, several red eyes watch everyone with a dark, malevolent aura. A wicked smile on his face, the villain then commands his monsters to attack everyone at the academy. The monsters surge forward and people panic, screaming for help in desperation. An announcement informs that monsters have invaded the school, urging everyone to evacuate to the safe zone. The purple barrier then envelopes the entire academy, preventing anyone from entering or leaving. With a malevolent smile, the villain thinks that all the teachers and scouts are now trapped by the barrier, and that without aid, the child of prophecy will finally have to reveal their identity. But suddenly, one of the Special Forces agents defeats several monsters with his red weapon. Seeing this, the villain Cheon-hae is completely shocked by the unexpected arrival of help. Leader Kim Deok-hyun defeats another monster, thinking that the Special Forces have finally arrived. The students inside the barrier are surprised by the arrival of the Special Forces. One of them explains they came to see Seojin's fight and are now saving people. A teacher tells them to trust him, and that they will join the fight as soon as the barrier is down. Our protagonist thinks that if the Special Forces join in, they can still turn the tide. But he looks at the barrier and thinks the real problem is how they're going to bring it down. Outside, a man despairs, shouting for help and saying he should have stayed at the stadium. A teacher explains that to breach the barrier, they need one more A-rank support mage. A man shouts for them to find one faster, as it will take 30 minutes to break the seal. Our protagonist thinks it's not a matter of time, but that it's impossible to break that barrier. He then recalls that the villain Qianhei's barrier skills are world-class. He knows that in the novel, Lee Seojin wouldn't have defeated the villain without a surprise attack. Therefore, the protagonist realizes he has no other choice, he'll have to try something himself. Assessing the situation, he turns to the side, a plan seemingly forming in his mind to solve the problem. Suddenly, a woman appears and introduces herself as Yang Haiyan, an A-rank support mage. With a confident smile, the young woman says she'll handle everything, and our hero recognizes her instantly. He thinks that accusing her of being a demon now would only arouse suspicion and solve nothing. The woman then begins to cast her spell, and a pink magic circle glows in her hands. She then asks the support teacher to help her raise the barrier, and the instructor agrees. The two then combine their powers, and several purple magic circles glow intensely. The young hero says they'll be out soon, but the protagonist denies it with a very serious look. Not understanding, Lee Seojin asks why, and our young man pulls him along, telling him to follow. But the support teacher senses something is very wrong with the woman's magic. She realizes that as she tries to lift the barrier, the seal is being reinforced from the other side. With this, the instructor understands that the barrier is actually being strengthened, not weakened. From a distance, the villain Qianhei observes the scene, thinking the support teacher is quite clever. Realizing he's been discovered, the man decides he needs to draw everyone's attention to himself. A purple, malevolent energy aura then begins to completely envelop the villain's hand. Outside, the two agents continue their fight against the unceasing horde of monsters. Suddenly, a larger, horned monster shrieks as it senses something approaching them. The monster's red eye then glows intensely at the new threat that has appeared on the scene. The two Special Forces agents continue to fight bravely against the horde of monsters at the academy. Suddenly, one of the agents notices more monsters approaching and begins to panic. One of the monsters then leaps towards the woman who is pretending to lift the barrier. But in a flash, the monster is completely sliced in half by a surprise attack. And the creature is defeated with a single, powerful blow from the spear of one of the Special Forces agents. With the monster down, the agent approaches to check if the woman is alright. He then turns to the young woman and asks if she's okay after the monster's attack. She thanks him for his help, and the agent thinks she's lifting the barrier from both inside and out. The team leader's weapon then glows with a strong red aura, ready for combat. With that, the two Special Forces agents continue to battle the horde of monsters with all their might. The younger agent remarks that his senior almost got caught, and the leader retorts that if he'd have to turn in his badge. The two then prepare to continue the fight and protect the people from the monsters. The younger agent vows to protect the woman, and she thanks him with a smile. But with a wicked grin, the woman reveals her true intentions to everyone there. Far away, Lee Seojin asks why they've gone behind the academy's exam site. Our protagonist explains it's because the area is deserted, and he intends to take down the barrier right there. He reveals that the support mage, Yang Haiyan, is actually a demon and is strengthening the barrier. Shocked, Lee Seojin says they must tell everyone, but our hero stops him immediately. The hero says he can prove it, but the protagonist argues there's no guarantee anyone will believe him. With that, he tells Lee Seojin to go inform everyone as soon as he successfully takes down the barrier. He continues saying that everyone will believe the information if it comes from a world-famous genius. Stunned by his friend's confidence, Lee Seojin is momentarily speechless. But he agrees, asking if his friend can really take down the barrier. The young man says he'll try. With that, the protagonist kneels and prepares to use his abilities to break the seal. The system then announces that the outsider's benefit induction ability has been activated. With this, he begins to interpret the barrier's magical formula in order to finally break it. On the other side, the demon woman senses that the great demon barrier is under attack. With that, a great blue light erupts, and the barrier is finally shattered, to the villain's astonishment. Our protagonist then stands up, remarking with an air of indifference that it was nothing special. He then urges his friend to go quickly and handle the situation, and the hero prepares to leave. But Lee Seojin questions him, asking why he's trying to hide his accomplishments. With a smile, our young man simply says that keeping things under wraps is enough for him. The scene then shifts to the Grand Academy building under a clear and sunny sky. The villain Qianhei then yells at the demon woman, calling her an incompetent fool. With the barrier broken, the teacher congratulates the demon woman on her supposed good work. At this, the scouts and teachers prepare to fight, declaring they'll handle the rest. The Special Forces leader then charges forward, defeating one of the monsters with a strike from his spear. With a determined look, he presses on, ready to fight the monsters with everything he has. His fists then glow with a strong red aura as he prepares to attack. With a single punch, he defeats several monsters at once, clearing a path for the others. Following his lead, one of the academy teachers uses her lightning magic, defeating multiple monsters at once. Her eyes glow with power, and with a determined look, she continues to fight with all her might. The magic then strikes the ground, causing a massive explosion of golden energy that vanquishes the monsters. Nearby, a professor dusts off his hands after defeating some monsters with his powers. He then comments Professor Lee Hee-young, saying her attacks are as powerful as ever. With their help, the others feel they can clear the area quickly and celebrate the assistance. The Special Forces leader says the mastermind could be anywhere and that they need to search for him. But the support teacher says there is a suspicious individual and points to the disguised demon woman. Hearing the accusation, the demon woman becomes nervous, clutching a handkerchief in her hands, unsure what to do. The instructor then confronts her, demanding to know what she was doing when they tried to break the magic barrier. With that, the teacher accuses her of being a demon, but others say she is going too far. The people around begin to gossip, questioning whether a teacher should be acting in such a manner. The Special Forces leader then tells his subordinate to hold back and not to intervene in the situation for now. The demon woman then scoffs, saying it only took a long time because she had to match her skill level. Suddenly, Lee Seojin appears and the teacher recognizes him, surprised to see him there. He confirms the instructor's suspicion, stating that every time they tried to break the barrier, it grew stronger. Shocked, the teacher asks how he knows this, and the hero says he felt something was off. Our protagonist then thinks that he asked his friend to keep it a secret and that the plan worked. Embarrassed, the hero says he knows the basic theory of how barriers work, thinking to himself that he hates lying. One of the scouts overhears the conversation and decides to investigate if a support mage named Yang Hyan even exists. With her identity questioned, a scout pulls out his phone, preparing to call the association. Seeing that her plan has unraveled, the demon woman has a look of pure hatred and frustration. Unsure of what to do, she asks her master for instructions now that she's been discovered. From a distance, the villain Chien-hei reveals himself with a purple aura, telling her to do what must be done. With the boss's appearance, the Special Forces leader points him out and orders his subordinate to capture him. The two then charge towards the villain with their weapons drawn, ready for combat. Their weapons collide with the villain's purple energy barrier in a massive explosion. The Special Forces leader then wonders if the enemy is an A-rank demon, and his colleague grows worried. The demon woman then lunges towards Lee Seojin, preparing to attack him with full force. She then attacks several nearby students, turning them into demons to fight alongside her. Her red eyes glowing, the demon woman readies herself for the final assault with all her might. She then screams that she will take down as many humans as she can and charges toward the hero. With his sword gleaming, Lee Seojin prepares to counter the demon woman's attack. With a single strike, he manages to defeat the demon woman, her blood splattering everywhere. With the enemy vanquished, the young hero states she came to the wrong place to cause trouble. The younger Special Forces agent then stares at the young hero with a look of pure admiration. With the fight over, the young hero declares that this is a magic academy and she never stood a chance. At this, the teachers and scouts begin to heal the injured with their support magic. The Special Forces leader thanks Lee Seojin for his help, and the hero approaches to talk. With a smile, the leader praises him, telling him to collect his reward for the demon hunt later. Lee Seojin then thinks that the person who truly deserves thanks is Kim Seon-woo. Far away, our protagonist is running desperately, trying to find the child of prophecy. With a kick, he shatters a wooden barrier and uses his magic to propel himself forward. Using his reinforcement magic, he's able to run at high speed to arrive in time to help. Suddenly, he sees a large explosion of fire and rushes to see what's happening there. A look of despair on his face, he screams no, as he realizes something terrible is unfolding. To his astonishment, the child of prophecy has finally awakened, and an aura of fire envelops them. A white-haired man stares at her, recognizing her as Yu-era, the second-ranked student of the second year. With a mocking smile, the man says her performance was disappointing and closes in. Beside her, a girl is in despair, wondering how on earth the situation escalated to this point. She remembers she was training with Aro when out of nowhere, monsters and a demon appeared. With a determined look, the young woman prepares to fight, declaring she'll fight alongside her friend. But Yu-ara tells her to stay out of her way and for her friend to just escape. A ball of fire in her hand, she says she'll handle everything herself and attacks the enemy. But the villain scoffs at her, asking if that's all the power she can muster. In a flash, he launches a purple energy attack, and the girl prepares to counter. But the man is quicker, grabbing her by the neck with simply crushing force. A wicked smile on his face, he glares at her and remarks that her blood is filled with strong magical power. The girl then begins to suffocate, unable to break free from the villain's grip. Suddenly, the man is struck by a powerful blast of blue energy and is sent flying. Her friend then shouts for the villain to release Ara, declaring that his real opponent is her. With a mocking smile, the man tosses her aside, remarking that their friendship is quite moving. He then creates a sphere of purple energy, asking what she thinks she can possibly do against him. With a determined look, the young woman says she knows she can't win, but she will fight regardless. Her eyes glow with power as she prepares to use her magic with all her might. With that, the girl shouts that she can't just run away and leave her best friend behind. The young woman then unleashes a powerful blast of blue energy that strikes the villain head on with full force. The villain's eye then glows with a red light as he prepares to counter the attack. Annoyed, the man shouts that his wounds aren't healing and doesn't understand why. The girl realizes her magic is depleting rapidly and doesn't know what to do to win. With one last attack, she collapses to the ground, exhausted, and the villain stares at her with a serious look. With a malevolent smile, he says he's finally found the child of prophecy and prepares to strike. The man then advances towards her to finish her off, but a voice rings out, stopping him in his tracks. It was our protagonist, who declares that the child of prophecy is an important person, and the villain turns. With a confident smile, he activates his Heart of Great Nature ability, saying the only one losing their life today is the villain.